and the perfect ending to a remarkable career. It is the Hall of Fame. Cooperstown, Canton, Springfield, and now Charlotte. Today, it's NASCAR's turn to enshrine its inaugural Hall of Fame class. 5 legends who built the foundation for this great sport. NASCAR welcomes its founder, his successor, the last American hero, the Intimidator, and the King, home to its shrine, the Hall of Fame.
And Larry, to say this day is a huge one for our sport would be an understatement.
Krista, the sport of NASCAR is over 62 years old. It took us a while to get a Hall of Fame, but when we got it, boy, did we get it right. In March of 2006, Brian France, after a lot of debate, announced the Hall of Fame for NASCAR would be in Charlotte. I think what today does, it puts a period on a lot of anticipation.
Well, all the NASCAR stars will be here. Not only will you see their faces, you will hear from them, because inside this state-of-the-art building, Jeff Hammond and Steve Burns will be talking to drivers, owners, and family members of those 5 men inducted into the inaugural class. So who are they? Bill France Sr., founder of the sport. Richard Petty, the King, 7-time champion. Bill France Jr., the second-generation leader. Junior Johnson, the Renaissance man, he did it all. And of course, the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt Sr. Well, standing by inside, Steve Burns is with a gentleman who I think it's pretty safe to say will be joining those 5 men someday.
That's a sure bet, Krista. Jimmy, when you see this magnificent structure, does it inspire you to try even harder? You're a 4-time champion, but does it give you more inspiration?
Without a doubt. I'd have to say it's tough as a current driver to really think that far ahead what would happen to you in your post-career, but when you walk through here, it kind of brings it into perspective and gives you a lot of hope and desire and all that stuff that you want to go out and do a better job to someday make it in here.
How about respect for the pioneers, the guys who helped forge this sport?
Without a doubt. I can't wait to walk through here a little further and look at more. I feel that we're very lucky, too, that we're able to walk through the garage area and see guys that are in the original class coming in. Our sport is young enough that, and I'm sure you've been able to see a lot of these guys over the years. I unfortunately didn't meet Bill France Sr., but I know from Bill France Jr. on, and it's just great to be our sport to be this young to where we can experience this.
Enjoy your day, Jimmy.
Great, you too.
Just go to Jeff Hammond.
You would have liked the conversation.
One, you were still driving for yourself, but Junior Johnson told you, get out of that car, put Dale Earnhardt in it, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, it was the best decision I ever made. I could see the sport changing. I could see the independents weren't going to be around as long, and it was just a great opportunity. And I'd known Dale from a little bit of hunting together, and at that time I thought it'd be a great opportunity to hook up.
But Dale, you got to be so proud of the fact you're going to have an opportunity to, be a part of his induction ceremony.
It is, and it's quite an honor. I mean, especially for the Hall of Fame being one of the top 5 to go in it. Dale deserved to be in it with everything that he's brought to the sport and how he changed the sport in his era. So I'm very honored and proud to be part of it.
Well, good luck and enjoy the day.
Well, Larry Mack, I know you were a part of a very special day back in February of '98 with those gentlemen, Childress and Earnhardt. Talk about their relationship.
Well, I think one reason that Richard Childress and Dale Earnhardt, one of many reasons they were so successful. Yeah, Dale was a great race car driver, Richard was a great owner, but their relationship went well beyond the racetrack. They were friends with each other. They enjoyed spending time together, hunting and fishing. But what I love about Richard Childress and Dale Earnhardt, so much in common. They both started with absolutely nothing. They worked hard to obtain the achievements that they were able to culminate over their career as a driver and an owner.
Well, working hard, certainly a theme in NASCAR. Some children grow up with jungle gyms in their backyard. Brian and Lisa France, they grew up with the high banks of Daytona. Steve is with the third generation leaders.
And they certainly did, Krista. And Lisa, I'll start with you first. Is it hard to put into words what this means for your family?
Well, it is hard to put into words because it's a culmination of so many generations of hard work and effort from everybody in this sport to get to today. But that's what I love about this Hall of Fame. I think people can come from all over the world and see what NASCAR is all about.
And Brian, your thoughts, thinking back to your grandfather and then the legacy your father helped move forward?
Well, we're proud. I mean, and they certainly put their life's work into NASCAR, and we're grateful that they're in the first class here. And we also have 3 great champions that are. But it's neat seeing all the things that go on here. And I think it's really more than anything, you see all the fans that are here, and they're going to be able to celebrate the past, look at the present, even look out into the future with this Hall of Fame. It's just a terrific venue.
It's a great achievement. Enjoy your day.
Thank you very much.
Krista?
Well, yes, the fans certainly are here outside. When we hear the roar of the crowd behind us, Larry, we know another NASCAR star is on. When you say the word NASCAR, you may not always think glitz and glamour, but today we have it. The sport's biggest names are making their way into the Hall of Fame. Krista Voda and Larry McReynolds standing outside the Hall of Fame. And Larry, you mentioned our sport is relatively young. It was only 30 years ago that the very first race was televised live, start to finish. It wasn't necessarily that broadcast that drew them in, but what happened at the end.
All come down to this. Donnie Allison throws the block. Cale hits him. He slides. They're hitting the wall. Petty is out in front. Waltrip trying to slingshot. Petty wins it. And there's a fight between Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison. The tempers overflowing. They're angry. They know they have lost. And what a bitter defeat.
And 2 of the participants in that famous moment, Bobby and Donnie Allison here. People forget who even won that race. It was Richard Petty.
It wasn't Richard?
It was.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Yeah.
Lucky, wasn't he?
We know who won the fight.
That's exactly right. Donnie, NASCAR won the fight, and the fans were the big winners. Donnie, you said the other day that there really wasn't any bad blood with Cale Yarborough. It was just the emotion of the moment.
Right, Steve. I mean, it's one of them things that happen, I guess. At that given time, I was so hurt because there's a 4th time I should have probably won the Daytona 500, and I hadn't won it yet. And to be that close and have that happen, like it happened, it wasn't a deal where one of us could limp back across the start-finish line. It was a wreck that started way, way, way earlier than we anticipated, or I did. And, I was never in love with Cale before, and I'm darn sure I'm not now, but I mean, that's the way it goes.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for your contributions on and off the track. 84 wins for Bobby, 10 for Donnie.
85.
Don't let that go, will you? Let's go to Krista. Thank you, man.
Okay. The argument continues today. Larry, you and I, obviously, we all work in television. We knew that 79 race was big because of that reason. But can you imagine where this sport would be if that fight hadn't happened? It was splashed across newspapers after that.
Well, it was the perfect storm, literally. The whole eastern seaboard was snowed in. It was the first flag-to-flag coverage by CBS of the Daytona 500. We had a lot of eyes watching, and I don't know how you could have had a bigger, more exciting finish.
Well, the stars continue to roll out. Jeff Hammond, let's go back inside where you're standing by with one of our legendary owners.
That's right, Chris. I'm here with Jack Roush. Jack, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, you told me a long time ago, it's all about contributions. With 116 wins in the Cup Series, it looks like your numbers are going to get you here in the Hall of Fame. What would that mean to you?
Well, it would mean a lot. You know, I was really proud when I was inducted into the Talladega Hall of Fame down at the racetrack there, and it'd be really great here. You know, NASCAR spent 3 years getting ready for this party. I can't wait to get inside and see what they've got.
I hope you enjoy the day right now, Jack. Congratulations and continued success.
With Casey Kane and you drive for Richard Petty Motorsports, has the scope of this day sunk in with you?
Well, I think it's been a big couple of weeks leading to this, being here a few different times and just watching everything Richard's kind of went through the last couple of weeks, and it's a big day. I'm excited for him and for all 5 of them, you know, to be inducted today. I think it's a great day. It's awesome for our sport, and I love that it's here in Charlotte. I think this Hall of Fame is really nice.
Thank you very much, Casey.
Thanks.
Krista?
Well, Casey Kane's so young. Larry, you and I were just talking. What could this mean for him, this day in this Hall of Fame?
Well, I think for a lot of drivers like Casey Kane, the younger drivers, even drivers that's won races, I think what this Hall of Fame, and even today especially, Krista, will do, it will help educate them and help them to learn things about the 62-year history of our sport.
Well, we just heard the largest roar while Steve was talking to Casey behind us because the King had arrived. Someone who knows all about idolizing the King, his son, Kyle Petty.
Makes it look classy and elegant. The Sherpa for 1995.
With Kyle Petty. Kyle, we talked to Brian France, Lisa France Kennedy. What a legacy for not only NASCAR, but for the Petty family.
And that's it. And that's I tell people Richard Petty is the tip of the iceberg. Really, when you look at what my grandfather did, my grandmother, when you look at Dale Inman, Maurice Petty, when you look at that family and what they did through the 50s and into the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and then I came along, Adam came along, Petty Enterprises was there for so many years. This is a big day for everybody that ever worked at Petty Enterprises, and for my father especially.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, guys.
And back here outside the Hall of Fame as we continue to watch fans greet drivers. They'll have their cameras out, flashing pictures. This is a very big day, not only for us in the sport, these fans, but as you said, this is educating new fans about our sport.
Well, that's exactly, to me, what this Hall of Fame is all about. You know, we have so many NASCAR fans. We have, you know, new fans, we have hardcore fans, we have long-term fans, but I think because we have not had a NASCAR Hall of Fame, this will help especially the new NASCAR fan understand the history of our sport.
And it takes definitely a full day to tour this place. Amazing things in store. We put our drivers on a pedestal in the sport. Today, we put 5 in the Hall of Honor. Before there were multi-million-dollar deals, there was a simple love of the chase. It's where racing all began. More from Uptown Charlotte and the Hall of Fame still to come. The Hall of Fame is the new reflection destination for race fans. Today, even the guys who spend their time behind the wheel are fans of those who came before them. And you see the number of fans growing as we speak, as their NASCAR stars come out on our blue carpet. It's a red carpet event, but our carpet is blue, and everyone will be filing into a ballroom, and that is where they will sit as they induct the 5 members of the inaugural class. Welcome back outside the Hall of Fame. Krista Voda, Larry McReynolds. This is, as we said, a very big day. You can feel it in the air. There's just a certain energy, Larry.
And the more stars that walk down that blue carpet, I think this becomes more of a reality. We're getting closer and closer, and I'm even beginning to get a little goosebump here or there.
And it's hot out here, so having goosebumps is very hard to do indeed. Well, a father and son will be enshrined in today, Bill France Sr. and Bill France Jr. Not the only father-sons who have come through our sport. Back in Daytona, 1993, a very special father-son moment.
The Dale and Dale show has become off of turn 4. You know who I'm pulling for. It's Dale Jarrett. He's going to make it. Dale Jarrett's going to win the Daytona 500. All right. Oh, can you believe it? Way to go. Oh, man.
I will say I am completely biased. Ned Jarrett touched my life for 6 years as the host of Inside Winston Cup Racing. Ned, you touched so many lives, not only as a broadcaster, but certainly your jackets in the Hall of Fame with CBS, but also as a driver, a 2-time champion and a winner of 50 races. What are you most proud of?
Well, I'm very thankful for the things that I was able to do in the sport. First of all, the God-given talent I have as a race driver, and then to be able to go into broadcasting and sort of get in on the ground floor of that. that's something that I'm very proud of. Probably a little more proud of that than my driving career.
Ned, you said you grew up in a small town in North Carolina up near Newton. Did you ever envision any of this growth and what we see here today?
No, had no idea. When I was driving race cars, you know, we were doing it to try to make a living, try to have some fun, and had no thoughts that one day that we would see an establishment like this and a place that can honor the sport and the fans can learn about the history of the sport and today meet some of the personalities that were involved in helping to get the sport where it is today.
Well, Ned, I can't thank you enough for your contributions to the sport and for me personally. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Steve. I enjoyed working with you over the years. Thank
All
you.
right, enjoy the day. Let's go to Jeff Hammond.
Well, Steve, you talk about the sport, you got to talk about the people who promoted the sport, and one of the best showmen ever had to be Humpy Wheeler. And Humpy, you know, you were also known for recognizing talent and giving guys an opportunity to race at your racetrack. And one day, you recognized the talent of a young man named Dale Earnhardt, and you gave him a shot, and you're one of the first guys to do that. What did you see in him?
Well, I saw he kept knocking the walls down and getting back up and shaking his head and wouldn't give up. And when things were right, you couldn't beat him. So I thought, gee whiz, at some point in time, he's going to get tired of hitting those walls, and he's going to be a race driver.
Well, another guy that you had a lot of experience with, you know, back when you were still working as a tire engineer and you knew him for a long time, Junior Johnson. What's your remembrance of him?
Best dirt driver I ever saw in my life, one of the best race drivers we ever had in NASCAR. And who would have thought that he would have ended up being one of the best car owners and crew chiefs, or whatever you want to call it, that we ever had. The guy's phenomenal. You know, his idea of a good night out was working on a carburetor back in the hotel room.
Well, thanks a lot, Humpy. Enjoy the day. And Krista, the stars and the stories just keep on coming.
No question, NASCAR has grown and transformed. The only gentleman to hold the title of president who's not named France, Mike Helton. You and Bill Jr. worked side by side. What #1 quality stands out for you?
I think it's his pragmatism. He put all the emotions to side when it needed to be and thought about what was good for the sport and good for long term. And that's one of the things I hope I've learned a little bit from him from.
You absolutely have. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mike.
Thanks.
NASCAR grew because the founders believed in it. Believing in something, no question. Dale Earnhardt Sr. believed in the driver he hired nearly 10 years ago. Steve, are you with him?
I am, Krista, and certainly Dale Earnhardt believed in you. He gave you a wonderful opportunity.
He did, and that's the cool thing about today for me. When we built this building, I loved walking around and looking at the cars and seeing how many things there were to do for the fans. That's one part of it that I really like. But today, the human element becomes the center stage. And, you know, Steve, I know those 5 guys. I hung out with them before. Me and Mr. France Sr. had a couple of moments together that I cherish. Of course, Mr. France Jr. yelled at me some, and then and Dale and Richard and Junior, all those guys have been a part of my life for the last 25 or 30 years, and so it's really special for me because it's real. This is our Hall of Fame. This is our inaugural class, and I know those people.
Well, for a guy from a small town in Kentucky that used to sit in his parents' car and listen to the races on radio, what does this day mean to Michael Waltrip?
It's just makes our sport even grander than it is. You know, I like to think of Friday on Speed. We got up at 9 in the morning and started talking about trucks. We didn't get done till 1:30 talking about trucks. We had all day long, NASCAR was center stage on a TV station. Man, when I was a kid, you know, it wasn't anything like that. So the media has gone 180 degrees in the other direction. And this is the only thing I think in my mind that was missing. And it's here and it's real. And these 5 gentlemen that helped form what this sports are today are going to be honored. And I'm going to be sitting there watching every minute.
We are too. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Steve.
Krista?
Well, Michael Waltrip said it's real and it's here. And the reason it's all here, of course, goes all the way back to the beginning, Larry. Bill France Sr.
Well, I never got to know Bill France Sr., but I know there was one point of history of NASCAR that I think made a statement about our sport. 10 years after he opened the Daytona International Speedway, he opened the Talladega Super Speedway. And when the teams got there, the drivers got there, they were tearing tires up. A lot of the top stars boycotted the race. I think most people have said, okay, we'll just run it when we figure things out. Not Bill France Sr. He said, guys, if you don't want to run my race, I'll find me guys that will. And they ran that race, and I think that was a huge mark in the history of NASCAR, how this sport will be run.
Vision and gusto from the France family. Well, we told Every sport has a Hall of Fame. Not sure how many roll out this kind of red carpet event. The All-Star race didn't finish until after midnight last night, but that's not keeping our sports stars from coming out today to honor those who came before them. Tony Stewart on hand, as is Jeff Gordon, also a future Hall of Famer. And standing outside the NASCAR Hall of Fame, Krista Voda with Larry McReynolds. Obviously a big day for the history of our sport. And when you talk about a new chapter being written, well, we have to turn the page to Pulitzer Prize-winning motorsports writer Dan Neal, Fox Sports contributor, Wall Street Journal writer. He has his own thoughts.
They came out of the South, rattling the pines, lighting up the night with crazy fire dancing from sawed-off tailpipes.
The pioneers of NASCAR were hard-handed country boys with something to prove. They were hungry sons of farmers who thought it was better to die behind the wheel than behind a plow. They were veterans of World War II who had discovered in the war a genius for speed and machinery.
And it was racing. Sometimes it was just for the promise of a few bucks on roundy rounds bulldozed out of a red clay field in soil so poor it could only grow heartache. Sometimes the competition wore a badge. While Europe was racing advanced open-wheel machines, the founding fathers of NASCAR were hanging it out, clapped-out Fords and Pontiacs, ropes for seat belts and football helmets, welded and fused and balled up and burned and broke, then towed to the next track the next Saturday night. But it was racing. From his very first failed efforts to put on a race, Big Bill France saw the problem. People couldn't see the cars, and the action was derelict and slow. But Bill had seen his answer in the high bank board tracks up north. He had a vision. Now all he needed was a racetrack. The Coliseum of this new Rome would be the Daytona International Speedway. People ask how NASCAR got to be so big and successful. The answer isn't simply the tough business acumen of Big Bill or his son, the fellow inductee to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, Bill France Jr. Jr. led the sport into the modern era on a river of tobacco money. He swung the big camera of national sports coverage to NASCAR. He took it to Wall Street.
The answer is in the nature of the Speedway itself and Southern culture. For 400 years, since the discovery of the region Americans call the South, there has been a tradition of dueling, of settling scores publicly with fearlessness and honor.
This was Big Bill's historic moment of clarity. The Speedway would be a theater of public honor. Essential truths of Southern manhood are there affirmed. Stock car racing isn't a blood sport anymore, but make no mistake, when Carl Edwards turns Brad Keselowski into the wall, it's pistols at dawn all over again. NASCAR is the one true Southern sport, a mirror of Southern culture, and you only have to look at the other inductees to see. For Southerners, family is tribe, blood is bond, and NASCAR is a sport dominated by fathers and sons. Bill and Bill Jr., Richard Petty, the King, son of Lee and father of Kyle, Dale Earnhardt, son of Ralph, father of Junior. It's biblical. Consider Junior Johnson, nicknamed the last American hero by Tom Wolfe, and who's to argue? 50 wins, superstar, bootlegger, ex-con, backwoods aerodynamicist. Southerners respect and admire the law-abiding, good Christian people that they are, but they root for the dangerous man, the man who pushes back against the system, especially the government tax man. Hell no, we won't forget. Dale Earnhardt is the most complicated figure of the group. Outlaw, trickster, father, champion, martyr. He drove like the world was against him. He drove like he hadn't eaten in 3 days. He was angry. He was hungry. Coming of age as a driver at a time when the sport was growing bigger, richer, and more popular nationally, and that made old school fans uneasy, Earnhardt's brawling driving was a throwback to the early days. Fans loved him for it. Fans hated him for it. It's ironic that Earnhardt also pioneered the modern business of packaging, of merchandising a driver's image, the Intimidator Incorporated. To this day, Richard Petty is the one NASCAR driver most Americans can name off the top of their head. The King, 7-time champion, 200 wins, the sport's complete gentleman and goodwill ambassador. The man in the black hat, figuratively, wears the white hat. A person of quiet righteousness with a drawl that would charm the fish out of the water. Petty was the ideal transitional figure, the Southerner who could make the rest of the country care about stock car racing in faraway exotic-sounding places like North Wilkesboro, Bristol, and Darlington.
NASCAR belongs to the nation now, and to the extent it has been embraced by the wider culture, it suggests the values, the romance of the South has risen again.
The inaugural class of the NASCAR Hall of Fame made it all happen. They came out of the South, and it was racing.
Well, the first class certainly sets the tone. So, Larry, did the voting committee get it right?
I don't think there's any question. To me, Rick Allen of Speed put it the best that I've heard it put. The first class of this NASCAR Hall of Fame needed to be the Mount Rushmore of NASCAR. I think those 5 guys are absolutely Mount Rushmore. But when you think about a Hall of Famer, to me, it's about contributions, it's about numbers. When you look at those 5 guys, the contributions they've made to our sport is second to none, especially Bill France Sr., Bill France Jr. And how about the numbers? Richard Petty, Junior Johnson, and Dale Earnhardt, over 450 wins, 20 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championships, 11 Daytona 500 wins. That, Chris Devoda, I think that's Hall of Fame numbers.
Absolutely. We are among greatness for sure. And when you talk about those 5 gentlemen, I think the one who at least is the most well-rounded would be Junior Johnson. Now, Jeff Hammond knows him well as an owner, a driver, a mechanic, a promoter. I know he taught you a few tricks, didn't he, Jeff?
Well, thanks, Krista. I'm here with the man that I used to work for. It's an honor to have worked for you, Junior, but it's even more of an honor to be here today as you're being inducted in this Hall of Fame. It's something that it warms my heart, and it's got to be very special to you.
It is. It's outside of my family. This is the most special thing that I've had to happen to me. It's just so awesome. You cannot believe what it does to you to know you're one of the first 5 to go in.
Junior, you have contributed so much to the sport. What is the single most thing you've ever done as far as your contributions to us that means the most to you?
I'd say it was getting Winston involved in the sport. I had a little bit to do with that. Basically, I was one that come up with the idea of them working with the Francis, and it stayed so long. You know, they was there for about 30, 35 years, and they contribute so much to the sport. It was unbelievable, and that would be probably the biggest and best thing that I did for the sport.
Well, again, Junior, it was an honor to work for you. I hope you enjoy the day. Again, it's the honor that's very well deserved, and I hope you enjoy every minute of it today because it's very, very special, not only to me, but a lot of your fans. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Steve, all I can say is it just keeps getting better.
Well, thank you, Jeff. A true American sports icon and an inductee today, Richard Petty. Your thoughts on this momentous day?
Well, you know, you just look around, you see all these fans and stuff that come out, and, you know, they've been coming out forever, okay? And they come back out again, and then, you know, for me, from an individual, being chosen out of all the thousands and thousands of people that made NASCAR what it is today, that, you know, you're one of them. And so I guess if you look back and you're going to say, of all the races you won, championships, all that stuff, this is the pinnacle of Richard Petty's career to be in the Hall of Fame.
Richard, there's a sign in the hall that says, every autograph I signed for a fan was my way of saying thank you.
Well, really, that's what it was all about, especially when we first started, because the fans were the ones that were paying the purse, okay? And that's where the money was coming from. No sponsorship, no deal money under the table, none of this kind of stuff. So, you know, it didn't take long to realize that where your living was coming from. And then, you know, even after that, you keep saying, you know, they buy our sponsor stuff today, and, you know, and they still buy tickets and still come to the races. So they still make Richard Petty do what he wants to do.
Richard, it's an honor to be with you here today. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
All right, let's go back to Krista and Larry.
They say Richard Petty has signed that autograph over 1 million times. The ballroom is empty, but it will not be for long, as NASCAR drivers, owners, community, and family members will join to honor the inaugural class, including Richard Petty. A big day for the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, a monumental day for the sport of NASCAR. Racing is not a hobby, it's a lifestyle. Today, the men and women who have given their lives to the sport are here to say thank you to the generations before who made it possible. Guys like Carl Edwards, Jeff Gordon, Rusty Wallace, all on hand to say thank you and to celebrate and reflect. Larry McReynolds here outside, and you know, what I noticed is you talked about contributions. Who else is contributing? Richard Petty, maybe?
Well, every one of those drivers I think that we've seen, all of them will eventually be in this Hall of Fame. But Krista, I watched all of these drivers, but especially Richard Petty. You talked about his autograph. As he walked down that blue carpet, there was not a fan that he didn't turn to and acknowledge. And if they wanted that autograph, he gave them that autograph, and he looked them in the eye. And you know the biggest thing? Richard Petty will say thank you to a fan that asked for his autograph.
He bridges the gap, and it's been said that he has signed his autograph upwards of many of 5,000 times a day. Let's go back inside where Jeff Hammond is caught up with another dignitary.
Well, thanks, Krista. I'm here with Rick Hendrick. And Rick, you said it was an overwhelming day today, but from the humble beginnings with that number 5 car, you and Harry Hyde and Jeffrey Bodine, we've come a long way.
Man, I can't believe it. Look at this place. I'm so proud of Charlotte. I'm so proud of NASCAR, and to be honoring the folks that today that were the pioneers in this sport. And you know, we look back at when we worked together, and a lot of success along the way with a lot of different people, and it's all captured right here in this building. And it's just, I'm a fan today. I'm the biggest fan in here. I got Richard's autograph again, and Junior's autograph again, and the Allison brothers, and I was walking around this morning eating breakfast with the guys getting their autographs. So you know, this is really a historic day for our sport, and this place is second to none. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well, the thing is, you are a presenter today. You'll be inducting your good friend Bill France Jr. What would he be thinking about this day?
He would tell me to hurry up and make it short. But he would be so proud. His fingerprints are all over this place, and what a great man, and what he did for our sport, and moving it from a regional to national to international, and just rock solid leader. And I'm more nervous about inducting Bill France Jr. than I have been at any championship dinner that I've been at, and that kind of tells you how much respect I have for him and this day.
Well, Steve, that gives you a pretty good idea of the kind of pressure and what people think about this day. It is truly an impressive and overwhelming day happening here at the Hall of Fame.
Well, Rusty Wallace signing some autographs for the fans, and you want to know a true racer's mentality? On Glory Road, Rusty said, I want to drive that car, and that car.
That would be so cool. I mean, that 21 David Pearson car, big long wheelbase, no rear spoiler. Man, that's such a cool looking hot rod. You look at the other cars around here, I'd love just to fire them up and get out there all by myself and see what they feel like.
How proud does it make you feel to be a former champion and to be here today?
It's everything in the world. It really is. I mean, this Hall of Fame has got everything in the world represented here, all aspects of the sport, and it's just such a big, big day. Look, there's a lot of representations around the country, but everything's here from the beginning to the end, and for me to even be here is an honor. I'm glad to be invited.
For a kid from St. Louis, not bad, huh?
Not bad, huh? You got that right. I mean, it's a big, big day. I've been smiling all day long, and I just can't get enough of this place, and the fans are happy. They're everywhere. They're out here in Groves, and everybody's all dressed up. It's pretty cool.
Have fun. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Steve. I'm here with Tony Stewart, owner and driver. Tony, I know that you don't like talking about this, but every now and then you've had some run-ins with the France family, and you've been up in the big red truck. What's it like to have a conference with Mr. France?
You know, it's not as bad as people would think it was in the past. You know, but you knew that if Bill or Brian brought you in the trailer, that they were going to sit you down and give you a different perspective on the way to look at things, and it wasn't in a bad way. You know, the thing that both Bills and now Brian are really, really good at it is at understanding how the big picture works. and how it affects the fans, how it affects the sponsors. And a lot of times as drivers, we get tunnel vision on the perspective that we see it from. So, you know, you left there always a lot smarter than you were when you went in there, and you may not agreed with what they said, but you understood why they said it and understood what they were getting at. So I think over the years, we've learned an awful lot from those guys, and realized that that's how this sport got to be as big as it is because they were able to look at the big picture.
Well, Tony, enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy the fans, and thanks for stopping by. Krista?
Thanks, Jeff. You know what, I'm impressed. All these drivers are showing up after such a late night last night. And Larry, I love what Tony said about that big red truck. Were you ever called up in there?
Many, many times. And I was up in there with Bill France Jr. by myself on a couple occasions, which can be very intimidating. But the thing about Bill France Jr., he always had a point he wanted to get across, and he always had a roundabout way of getting there. But at the end of the conversation, you knew his point was, if you were way out of line, you need the sport much more than the sport needs you, and that message was always loud and clear.
It was delivered. Okay, well, I think Jeff is back inside and with another driver who also had a late night of racing. Jeff?
Yes, he did. Carl Edwards was performing late last night. But, Carl, when you come down here, you're one of the up-and-coming superstars, and you see this Hall of Fame, does this help to inspire you and make you want to get up on the wheel that much more so that someday they'll have your name in here?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You know, when they talked about the Hall of Fame, I didn't realize it was going to be this big. This is the first time I've seen it. And, I mean, I got all these cars in here and haven't had a chance to walk around and look at everything. But I'm so excited to hear some stories today, you know. So amazing to hear how hard all those guys worked and how much they put into it. And just an honor to be here. And I got to meet a lot of these fans who said they voted for me last night. So thank you guys very much. It meant a lot to be in that all-star race and to be able to come here today and be a part of this is an honor.
Well, enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy your fans here. Steve, I know you've caught up with someone that's pretty important when it comes to our sport of NASCAR.
I'd say Jeff Hammond. We've got Jeff Gordon. And Jeff, being in the Hall of Fame today, does it help put the entire sport in perspective? What does it mean to you personally?
It does. I mean, I think that this is an exciting day for me, for everybody that's a part of this sport, whoever's, you know, been a fan of this sport for many years, and future fans. I mean, this really, you know, this goes right back to exactly what this first five of inductees is all about, is how the sport got to where it is and how it's going to go to the next level. And so I think the group of five is amazing, and honored to be here to see that, and to see all these fans, and to get a chance to just see the history, you know, and this does put a lot of things in perspective. But more importantly, I think it just again elevates us up to that next level as a sport, to the professionalism that it deserves.
Jeff, what did Dale Earnhardt mean to you? There was some tough love between him and you when you first came into the sport.
Well, you know, Dale was a fierce competitor, and you know he never gave up. He knew how to win. He was such a master at the super speedways and so many tracks. What I always looked at him was the guy always knew how to come through at the end of the day, and he knew how to win a championship. And he would do about anything to get it. And sometimes I was in the way of that anything, but we had great battles and great respect. And then off the track, you know, he taught me so much about business. So I certainly am biased in the fact that I think he deserves to be in this top five, because I got a chance to race with one of the best there's ever going to be in this business, and that was Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I'm sure we'll see you in here one day soon.
Well, I hope so. Maybe. Thank you.
All right, let's go back to Krista.
Don't worry, Jeff. I'm sure we will. Of course, it's a special day for so many of the pieces of history. You see Dale Sr.'s car, Jeff Gordon's right alongside, inside on Glory Road. Well, it's almost time for the past to be placed into its rightful place within the Hall of Honor. When we return, we will get you closer to the inaugural induction ceremony from Charlotte, North Carolina, here on Speed. It's a very special day in Charlotte, North Carolina, the mecca of motorsports. Welcome back to the Hall of Fame. Krista Voda alongside Larry McReynolds. And when you've won 3 championships, I know it's pretty hard to think that anything would top that, but Darrell Waltrip is on pins and needles, nervous about presenting his former owner, Junior Johnson. He is inside with our Jeff Hammond.
Yeah, thanks, Krista. And I can't believe that Darrell Waltrip was actually nervous, but I think you may have a little bit of nerves today, boss. Junior Johnson, you got to present. You don't want to mess up. And I don't know why I'm even going to ask you a question, because I know you're going to take the mic away from me and do your own thing.
No, but you interviewing me is like me introducing Junior. it just seems funny how it's gone full circle, you know, but what a beautiful, I mean, the sun's shining, the Hall of Fame is open, it's a real live, there's so much history here. I love walking in and seeing all these old cars, seeing our history preserved. I've told people before, everybody has something. You know, at our shop, Children's shop, everybody had pieces of our sport. Finally, they're all in one place, and I like that a lot.
Well, Darrell, all I can say is I know you're going to be a future Hall of Famer here, but when you come walking in this hall, we were just discussing it before we came on air, it really gives you a special feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah, well, we walked in on the red carpet. All these people here, you know, the sport deserves this. It needed it, and it's living, breathing history. There are people here today that are going to get inducted that Richard was at the first race. And certainly there's some other people here that Ned Jarrett and some of the older drivers that were at the very first race they ever ran in this sport. Not many sports can say that they have actually people that are still around that were there when the sport started, and that's pretty cool.
Well, all I can give you advice is just kind of like take a deep breath and wiggle your toes and just enjoy the day, buddy. I know you got a lot of pressure on you. Don't mess up, because Junior Johnson will never let you forget it, okay?
You know what he already told me?
What's that?
I don't think I'd say that if I were you. I was telling him a couple of things I thought I might tell stories. He said, I don't think I'd say that if I were you. So I'm done. I'm cooked.
He's already in trouble, Steve.
All right, thank you, Jeff. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kelly Earnhardt, right in front of your dad's car. When I think of this Hall of Fame, I think about family, and I think about your grandfather, Ralph, and how it all started.
Yeah, he. They said he was one of the greatest on dirt, and he's sort of the catalyst getting the Earnhardt family in the sport, and you know, we're real proud of our history.
Hey, Kelly, what does it mean to you this day in particular? I've seen some of your aunts and uncles and your grandmother. What does the day mean to you?
Well, I'm very excited the day's finally here, because we've worked up for it for so many of these people for years, but for us the last couple of months, just preparing for all the events that we've had this week, and we're just very excited to be here and proud of our family and the other inductees as well, so it's a great honor.
Growing up in Kannapolis, Mooresville like you did, could you envision a building like this, a legacy to the sport, Dale?
Well, I figured they'd put it together eventually. It's been a long time coming. We need a nationally recognized Hall of Fame for this sport, and you know, it's congratulations to the inductees this year, all the people that were mentioned and voted upon. They all belong in here, and will eventually be in this hall. It's a great looking place, and it's awesome for the fans to really get a piece of history and learn a lot about the sport.
Thanks to both of you. Enjoy the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, you know, that number 3 car, when I keep thinking about it, it'll be back on the track in July. It's like 117 out here, Larry, but that's got to give you chills.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fans are longing to see that 3 number back on that racetrack. And here in a little over a month, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that 3 car in the Nationwide Series, the old Wrangler colors. Yep. I mean, boy, that's going to be huge for our sport.
Absolutely. Of course, this is a huge day for our sport. There are moments where you need to remember when and where you were. Today is that day. We will wrap things up and get you inside for the big ceremony next. Welcome back to Charlotte, North Carolina, home of the brand new state-of-the-art NASCAR Hall of Fame. Today, we will induct our inaugural class. Carl Edwards, will he be enshrined someday? For now, he's happy just to sign autographs for the fans. And it's almost time for the big moment before we wrap things up from here outside. Let's go back inside and get some final thoughts from Jeff Hammond and Steve Burns.
Well, Krista, I'm not sure what my expectations were about the Hall of Fame or this day, but they have certainly been exceeded.
I'm with you, Steve. When you think about all the legends that have walked up Glory Road here on their way to this inauguration deal, it's just unbelievable. And to be a part of the sport for as long as I have, well, I'm overwhelmed, and I'm honored to be a part of it. It's something special, Krista. That's all I can say. Very, very special.
Absolutely. And Larry McReynolds, you've been a part of so many special moments. Your final thoughts?
Well, our sport started over 60 years ago, the first race in 1949, because of the vision of a man, Bill France Sr. And I've got to believe right now, Bill France Sr. is looking down and going, guys and girls, you got it right. This is what I'm talking about right here.
And it's all about to begin. A historic day of epic proportions. We honor the men whose heroics built the foundation of our sport. Race historians have been waiting for this next moment for over half a century. The building's in place, the doors have been opened. Soon, 5 gentlemen will be enshrined. The Hall of Honor will unveil their cars. Their notoriety is already recognized. The inaugural Hall of Fame induction starts now.
There was a time before stock cars ruled the hearts of race fans. There was a time before the love of speed had a home. A time before men with nerves made of the same steel as race cars had a place to be honored and remembered. But that time is gone, and 5 men have driven us to where we are today. Big Bill France brought together the authors of NASCAR and gave it structure and code. His son, Bill France Jr., took over with a clear vision. He made the nation fall in love with the spectacle. While the law called Junior Johnson a bootlegger that must be caught, the Detroit factory simply needed to catch up to his genius. In every race, it was the Intimidator against the field. Dale Earnhardt rattled NASCAR to its core and became either the hero or villain to every fan. And of course, every sport needs a king with an untouchable record and Southern charm. History will speak of this king who wore a crown of felt rather than gold. Now we've reached a time where what has transpired before will live on. We begin today by opening the doors of the NASCAR Hall of Fame to these 5 pioneers, but with the promise of many more.
From the city of Charlotte, North Carolina, where 12 days ago we dropped the curtain and opened the doors to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, we return to induct the first 5 honorees into this great hall. Live from the Crown Ballroom, where NASCAR's biggest names have gathered, it's the 2010 NASCAR Hall of Fame inaugural induction.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome. It is a great honor and my great pleasure to welcome you to this landmark day in our sports history. More than 60 years of dreaming and determined effort have brought us to this moment. NASCAR now enjoys its own Hall of Fame. Charlotte joins Cooperstown, Canton, Springfield, Toronto, and St. Augustine in hosting the celebrated shrines of America's major professional sports. Each of today's inductees set the standard for his era, on or off the track, and each contributed mightily to the growth and increased popularity of NASCAR. Today's NASCAR Hall of Fame's inaugural class will stand for all time as the Mount Rushmore of our sport. Let us begin by welcoming our most honored guests, our inductees. Representing Dale Earnhardt, the members of the Earnhardt family. Representing Bill France Sr., his son, Jim France. Representing Bill France Jr., his daughter, Lisa France Kennedy, and his son, Brian France. Would you please welcome the last American hero, Junior Johnson. And here is NASCAR's royalty, its all-time winner, the King, Richard Petty. Earlier today, in a special reception, each of our living inductees was presented with their Hall of Fame blazer, made by the same company who makes the green jackets for the Masters. And this particular shade of cloth NASCAR Hall of Fame blue is now retired from their inventory from other uses. Each of our 5 inductees today will receive a unique inductee ring, crafted of 14-karat white gold, centered by a blue sapphire, surrounded by diamonds in a design that recalls the ribbon outside the Hall of Fame. These 5 inductees were elected from a field of 25 NASCAR greats who are all profiled in today's program, and we are pleased to welcome many of our nominees and their families to today's ceremony. Thanks too to the hard work of the nominating committee, the voting panel, and especially the fans who cast your votes for today's inaugural class. Now, let's take a look at how the grand concept of a NASCAR Hall of Fame became a reality right here in Charlotte.
For more than 60 years, NASCAR's popularity has rested on the shoulders of its racing heroes, living legends creating legendary moments. For too long, those moments were like the racers themselves, always on the move, kept alive through stories and small stashes of mementos here and there. NASCAR legends and their stories needed a home, a place for fans to pay tribute to those who built the sport into what it is today. In the summer of 1949, the first strictly stock car race was held on a tiny little dirt track in the western corner of Charlotte, North Carolina. Over the decades, the sport grew, and so did the city. When the search began for a location for the hall, Charlotte would emerge as a most appropriate choice.
Happy to tell you today, the NASCAR Hall of Fame is going to be right here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
On January 25th, 2007, ground was broken for the new facility. On the southern edge of uptown Charlotte, North Carolina, a glistening, state-of-the-art facility rose into the Carolina sky, destined to become the largest and most technologically advanced sports Hall of Fame in the world. Meanwhile, the 25 nominees for the inaugural class were announced, a group that included drivers, car owners, and executives from little-known red clay pioneers to household names. A panel of 50 voters met behind closed doors, and the first 5 NASCAR Hall of Famers were announced. Richard Petty, the King. Dale Earnhardt, the Intimidator. Junior Johnson, once hailed as the last American hero. Bill France Sr., the founder of NASCAR. And his son Bill France Jr., who nurtured stock car racing from a regional institution into a global phenomenon. The search started for artifacts, and they started arriving from throughout the United States. And now, through tireless efforts, finally, such a place exists. Welcome to the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
We all share a great sense of pride in seeing our sport reach this important milestone. No one is more proud than our first speaker. Please welcome the president of NASCAR, Mike Helton.
Thank you, Mike, and good afternoon, everyone. You know, one of our guideposts in the way that we do business at NASCAR is that while we're always looking toward the future, we're also very mindful and very proud of our past. You see, we like the old adage that says that you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. We now have this tremendous facility that houses our heritage and memorializes those who blazed the trails on our behalf. It also energizes the excitement that we have about our future. Our 5 inaugural inductees remind us today why we're fans. 5 unique individuals with a common interest, NASCAR. 5 very special men that we cheered for, we laughed with, we cried with, and we learned from. So on behalf of all of NASCAR, Thanks to those that made today's ceremony in this hall possible. Thanks and congratulations to the inductees and their families. And thanks to each of you for joining us this historic afternoon as we honor our history and begin a wonderful new tradition.
Big Bill France legitimized stock car racing, created the sport's first national championship, and built our fastest superspeedways.
He moved to Daytona Beach with his family, a set of tools, and $25. With that, he became the founding father of NASCAR. Coming up, Big Bill France becomes the first inductee into the Hall of Fame. The 2010 NASCAR Hall of Fame inaugural induction ceremony will return in a moment.
NASCAR's greatest legends finally have a home for the ages.
It's great to see the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt, leading the first class of inductees into the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Bill France Jr. was a legend, and it's great to see him being inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
From one Hall of Famer to another,
congratulations to the first class of inductees to the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
I believe in NASCAR.
Welcome back to the 2010 NASCAR Hall of Fame inaugural induction ceremony. Once again, here's Mike Joy.
Thank you. These beautiful spires, 5 of them, will be installed in the Hall of Honor of NASCAR's Hall of Fame following today's ceremony. Each includes the Hall of Fame logo, a likeness, signature, name, dates of birth, a video screen and handset so that visitors can learn more about the inductee, their accomplishments, a few paragraphs about what they meant for the sport, and then a great feature for our younger visitors. There's a different image here near the bottom of the spire that kids will be encouraged to take a piece of paper and a pencil or piece of charcoal and make a rubbing on to take home as a souvenir of their visit to the Hall of Fame. To begin today's inductions, please join me in welcoming one of our sport's most beloved administrators. He's been a public relations professional, a track president, and is now a NASCAR executive. Here's one of the sport's true ambassadors, NASCAR's Vice President of Corporate Communications, Jim Hunter.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, it's not often that anyone gets to introduce a video like this one. This is a video about a man who created a sport. This video is about a great man, Bill France Sr.
The sport of NASCAR owes its entire existence primarily to the efforts of a 6'5" working-class family man named William Henry Getty France. In 1935, at the height of the Great Depression, the part-time driver sold his Washington, D.C. garage, packed up his family, and drove south to Daytona Beach, Florida. With a new service station up and running, Big Bill set his sights on organizing races on Daytona's beach.
In 1936, they put the first beach road stock car race on. After the war, the France family were the ones that kept the racing going for Daytona Beach.
Big Bill found that every track raced by its own rules. France dreamt of starting one stock car organization with one set of rules and one champion. So on December 14th, 1947, at Daytona's Streamline Hotel, Big Bill organized a meeting. This led to the birth of NASCAR.
It was Bill's ideal, and he promoted and fought for the money to get behind him to put it over.
He ruled NASCAR in the early days with an iron fist, and you done what he told you was going to do.
And his word was the law.
And a lot of people said, well, you know, that dictatorship is not good. I think it's the best thing that could have happened, to have an individual as strong as he was. Even though everybody didn't agree with everything that he said and did, most of the time it turned out to be the right thing.
In 1959, France moved racing off the beach and built Daytona International Speedway. In those early days, expanding the sport was a race against bankruptcy. And Bill France won.
Big Bill was determined to build Daytona Speedway. You know, that was his dream for a few years before he actually got the thing put together. Finally got all the things together to get that racetrack built and to have the race there. Here, all of a sudden, was a place that the guys could hold the gas pedal wide open, go round and round. It just was an incredible next step into this thing.
It started a process in American sports, American motorsports, of building big facilities that you could have big-time auto races on. Bill France Sr., people had to look at him like he was the craziest man in the world.
Throughout the 60s, Bill France kept going, and NASCAR kept growing, evolving from racing on dirt tracks to paved speedways. In 1969, the sport shifted into a higher gear. After a phone call from the governor of Alabama, Big Bill set his sights on a new facility.
We received a phone call from Governor Wallace after a group of these wonderful folks here in Talladega County had taken the trouble to go down to explain what they wanted. They wanted a facility similar to Daytona and better if possible, that would bring worldwide recognition to people here in Alabama.
Bill France was comfortable with heads of state and everyday NASCAR fans alike because he was both. He loved the sport that he helped create.
I can't remember when a champion of any sport ever got a telephone call from the President of the United States until tonight. I'm just very happy I was able to get NASCAR put together because it's got a rooting interest of many, many people.
The success of NASCAR is a tribute to Bill France. Racing was his lifelong passion, and NASCAR was a lifetime commitment. The heritage and history of the sport is a living legacy to one man and one dream.
You know, it was a pretty tall order to determine who should formally induct William H.G. Big Bill France into NASCAR's Hall of Fame. It turned out to be a lawyer, and in this particular instance, he received a unanimous verdict from France family members. John Cassidy has been an insider at NASCAR for more than 50 years, a true family confidant and a close family friend. He was NASCAR's first legal counsel and remains an advisor today. Back when John was beginning his legal career, he worked with some pretty big guns. He worked as a special assistant to Attorney General Bobby Kennedy during the Kennedy administration. In fact, he'll tell you, Bill France Sr. and Annie B. France helped him start his own firm. John has provided 3 generations of France family members advice on legal matters ranging from drafting rules for competition, substance abuse policies, and intellectual property issues, just to name a few. Most importantly, he is simply a longtime friend of our sport and the sport's founding family, a man who drank a little scotch with Big Bill over the years. Please welcome, from the law firm of Baker Botts in Washington, D.C., John Cassidy.
Jim, thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone. No one, absolutely no one, deserves to be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame more than Bill France Sr., since there would not have been a NASCAR without Bill. Bill France Sr. first became a part of my life almost 50 years ago when I was working in Washington as a special assistant to another great man, Robert Kennedy, the then Attorney General of the United States. Kennedy called me on the telephone one day, and he gave me what you might call a warning. He said a man named Bill France was coming down the hall to my office. This fellow has something to do with automobile racing, said Kennedy, who obviously knew very little about motorsports. He went on to say, Jimmy Hoffa is giving him and NASCAR a hard time, and we must help them. Shortly after Kennedy's call, the door to my office opened up, and there stood one of the biggest men I had ever seen. He literally filled the doorway. I'm looking up at him, and he looks at me, and his very first words were, "Son, we have a problem." And Mr. Kennedy says, "You have the answer." Bill pulled up a chair beside my desk and proceeded to educate me for several hours on the history of motorsports, on racing on the beach, on stock car racing, on NASCAR. He explained to me that NASCAR was created to bring order to the sport, to guarantee that prize money would be paid, and to adopt and enforce rules of competition. He emphasized to me that there would come a day when NASCAR and stock car racing in the NASCAR tradition would become a nationally recognized professional sport. Little did I know then how much that first encounter with Bill France would change my life's work. For it led to a career in the practice of law, focused in large part on motorsports. I witnessed firsthand the growth of NASCAR and stock car racing to a level of public acceptance well beyond Bill Sr.'s wildest dreams. My experience was not unlike that which many of you all here today have enjoyed. Whether you're a fan, a competitor, a sponsor, a car owner, a track owner or promoter, we all have experienced the joy of being associated with NASCAR, because NASCAR stands for excellence in motorsports. Bill frequently was described as a visionary. I don't dispute that, and it might be because of his Irish heritage, I prefer to call him a dreamer who was a man of action. Someone who turned dreams into reality. Not only did Bill follow his dreams, Bill expected each and every one of us to follow our dreams. Senior relished the challenge. The bigger, the better. He once quoted George Bernard Shaw saying, "Some look at things that are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not." A key to Bill France Sr. When I left the department to start a law firm, Bill Sr. and his wonderful wife, Annie B., saw to it that NASCAR and ISC were our very first clients. I soon found myself in Daytona, working with both of them on many NASCAR projects. I lived with them while in Daytona and was involved in many breakfast discussions that were primarily focused on how to expand the sport, make it bigger, whether to build Talladega, an immense debate. It was during those discussions that frequently included their oldest son, Bill. Jim, at that time, was in the service, that the significance of Annie B's role in NASCAR and ISC became apparent to me. Annie B had a fine sense of business and finance. She was, in fact, a full-fledged partner with Bill Sr. on every significant business issue that confronted NASCAR and ISC. While Bill Sr. created NASCAR and built 2 super speedways, he did far more. Sr. championed the effort that gained national and worldwide recognition for NASCAR's brand of stock car racing. His efforts attracted some of the finest competitors and corporate sponsors, many of whom are substantial supporters of this Hall of Fame. Senior's efforts led to the creation of a NASCAR fan base which is second to none in professional sports. To attract this type of attention, Bill Sr. knew his sport needed a national champion if it was going to be recognized on the same level as other professional sports in this country. Needless to say, the NASCAR champion of today is mentioned in the same breath as World Series champions and the champions in other professional sports. In fact, four-time NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson was named Male Athlete of the Year in 2009 by the Associated Press. This was a seminal event. It was a recognition of NASCAR's sports prominence. Bill Sr. not only nurtured a major professional sport from infancy to adulthood, but he and Annie B. raised a family, a wonderful family, who have followed in their footsteps with the help of an extremely talented NASCAR family. All of this taking NASCAR to the next plateau, a plateau of great popularity, not only in this country, but worldwide. Bill France Sr. never forgot the humble beginnings from which NASCAR and he himself sprung. And while he walked with ease in the corridors of power in Washington and elsewhere, he walked with equal grace through the infields and garages of NASCAR events. A walk, and I've done it with Bill Sr. through an infield, was truly, truly a walk among good friends, most of whom greeted him simply as Bill. While he could be tough as nails, especially when dealing with race competition issues, Sr. was always fair and compassionate to those faced with adversity. And when a race car driver or owner was down on his luck, it was not unusual for Bill Sr. to be there to help him out. Bill was loyal and especially interested in those that shared the very early days of the sport with him. He could be the consummate diplomat and politician when the occasion demanded. He had a forceful personality combined with a reputation for integrity. The word big was never that far from Bill France Sr.'s mind. I remember an autumn night many years ago, Bill Sr. and I were in one of those big Pontiacs that GM used to have down at Daytona. And we were driving up Daytona Beach. And over the ocean rose a harvest moon. It was gigantic. It looked like molten gold. It's one of the biggest moons I've ever seen. And Bill Sr., who was somewhat of a poet, he looked at me and he said, "Son, that's a pretty big moon for a small town like this." I love that. Bill's dreams of growth for NASCAR were only exceeded by his desire that stock car racing become a recognized and respected professional sport in America. And if he were here today, he would be the very first one to acknowledge that NASCAR has exceeded his dreams. I can think of no better way to close than to quote the last verse of one of Bill Sr.'s favorite songs. "I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way." Suffice it to say that Bill France Sr. indeed did it his way. Please join me now in welcoming to the stage Bill France's son, the Vice Chairman of NASCAR, Jim France. On this, the 23rd day of May 2010, it's my honor to formally induct Bill France Sr. into the NASCAR Hall of Fame and present this Hall of Fame ring to you on his behalf.
On behalf of everyone in our family, thank you, John, for that introduction and the great tribute to my father. Let me begin by saying that our family is very proud to be involved in this memorable afternoon for the induction of my father and my brother Bill. We would like to thank the Hall of Fame voting panel for including them in this inaugural class with Junior, Richard, and Dale, who are truly the iconic heroes of NASCAR. If Dad were here today, he would be proud as well, but in a different way. He would be proud mostly for NASCAR. He would be proud of this Hall of Fame and the commitment made to honor our past and to recognize the individuals who are responsible for making NASCAR what it is today and for their great accomplishments. The NASCAR Hall of Fame, in many ways, is the ultimate tribute to my father and the hopes and dreams that he had for our sport. In closing, I would like to offer as a donation his ring back to the Hall for display wherever they would choose to place it. Thank you.
200 victories, 7 series championships, numerous other all-time records. The King came by that name honestly.
He raced to an untouchable record, but the King hasn't put himself on a pedestal, ranking family and friends above wins. Coming up, Richard Petty becomes the first driver inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Inaugural induction ceremony will continue in a moment.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the NASCAR Hall of Fame is open in Charlotte, North Carolina.
For 2 weeks here in Charlotte, beginning with our grand opening ceremonies where 44 legends and current members of the NASCAR community join hundreds of local celebrities and several thousands of our guests to officially open the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And it has been an equally remarkable 5 years from the point this community began the quest to become the home of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Over the last 2 weeks, the consistent theme we have received about the Hall is there's far more to experience than anyone expected. From the more than 50 interactive exhibits to the incredible array of artifacts and compelling videos highlighting the 62-year history of NASCAR and what has been often described to me as perhaps the most remarkable collection of used cars anywhere. We've had many very special days these past 5 years, and it is my belief that May 23rd, 2010 will stand out as easily one of the most memorable. And in the years ahead, this day will be equal in stature to June 12th, 1939. You see, that was the day the baseball world first gathered in Cooperstown, New York to induct their first Hall of Fame class, including greats like Ruth, Cobb, Matheson, Wagner, and Johnson, and now our legends, France, Petty, Earnhardt, and our very own Johnson, along with those in years to come, will have a place to call home. So look around and please take a moment and soak it all in as you are a part of history. And Charlotte is proud to be the home to honor all those who built this great sport and business into what it is today. So on behalf of the entire team and the thousands involved in developing the NASCAR Hall of Fame, we want to welcome you to Charlotte, North Carolina, and enjoy the rest of the program.
And the Firecracker 400, Richard Petty has taken the lead. The yellow caution flag is going to come out. Coming down the front straight, Richard Petty was just in front of Cale Yarborough as they came across the line. Richard Petty has won the 200th race of his incomparable career.
I understand that no one in the whole history of racing has ever won 200 races.
And until that day, no sitting United States president had ever attended a NASCAR race. That was quite a day. We are joined by a man who engineered nearly all of Richard Petty's 200 victories, as Petty Enterprises is truly a family success story. Would you welcome, please, the King's cousin and longtime crew chief, Dale Inman.
Thank you, Mike. Got a big crowd. Good afternoon, everyone. My education in racing goes back to a three-time national champion, Lee Petty. He taught us and taught us well, me and Richard and Maurice. Richard started his driving 10 days after he was 21 years old. And of course, you know, a lot of history goes behind that. His brother Maurice, some years later, he tried his hand at driving, and that didn't work out very good. He found out right early that he needed to do something else. So he took over the engine room at Petty Enterprises. So that left me and Richard to take care of the race cars, and of course a lot of history after that too. And From day one, Richard understood what it was to be good to the fans, the sponsors, and the love of his family. And to this day, he carries that through, even with his family and the trials that they've been through, the lows, the highs that this family has endured. And of course, we can talk about the 200 wins, the 7 championships, the Daytona 500 wins. And some of you young drivers out there, including Jeff, Jimmy, a lot of others, Tony, let up a little bit. Richard's he's all in. So try not to beat all of them. I know you're going to get some of them. But we got 2 ladies sitting over here too. My wife, Mary, Linda. They've been through a lot. And Richard, with this new Hall of Fame here in Charlotte, it'll make sure that you're always remembered. Thank you so much.
Richard Petty practically wrote NASCAR's record books. His accomplishments became the standard of success of stock car racing. But numbers alone don't equal the man who is king.
He was an incredibly good driver, perhaps the best of his time, maybe the best of all time.
Good on dirt, good on small tracks, good on super speedways. Richard Petty was good.
There was a time there that Richard Petty, when he showed up, it was like, okay, who's going to run second?
He dominated. Richard Petty was one of the few people that I've known that had incredible talent on dirt and pavement both.
If his car didn't break down, some mechanical problem happened to it, he was more than likely going to win the race.
Comes Richard, he fires past Cale, and the Petty Blue is number 1.
You probably wouldn't see him for a while. And when you got near the end of the race, you look up in your mirror and here come Old Blue.
With Richard behind the wheel, Petty Enterprises was a family affair. His cousin Dale Inman was crew chief, and his brother Maurice built the cars.
Maurice Petty built one of the most phenomenal engines that was ever prepared and built to put inside race cars. Dale Inman knew how to prepare the car and get it ready.
The whole family was so smart in trying to stay ahead of the game and the evolution of the sport.
We were supposed to win. That's the way we felt about it.
And immediately the cars start to pit. Here's Petty's car in the pit area. For some reason or other, Petty is up on top of his car, and Petty is definitely worried about the top. He's got a hammer, is hammering it away.
Petty put his heart and mind into winning and won millions of fans in return.
Richard Petty was very smart. They were the first that approached it like a business. They knew how hard they could run those cars and expected them to be there at the finish. And I think that helped them to win a lot of races and a lot of championships back in those days. They were just simply smart at doing it.
The 1959 Rookie of the Year won his first championship in 1964. He won a record 7 titles, 7 Daytona 500s, and 200 races, including 27 in 1967.
What makes Richard Petty stand out to me is longevity, how long his career spanned. I mean, it's like impossible. It seems like he's in the sport driving for 50 years.
When they were in a position to win races, they won races. And I think that's the big deal that allowed them to dominate through the 60s and into the 70s. He was just incredibly focused on one thing, and that was winning races. I think that's what made Richard Petty such a great driver.
The things that he's done for people off the racetrack impressed me more so, I guess, than what he did do on the racetrack. Richard was truly one of the first ones to ever take time with the fans. He took time after a tiresome race or anything. He'd be the last one there if it was necessary to make sure that everybody come by and got an autograph.
He certainly earned the title of the king.
When you look back in history, there was a Petty there at every race. When people talk about, how do you want to be remembered or whatever, if they remember you, that's enough.
Thank you again. I've been threatened on this one, and I got to be careful. I'm bringing Kyle up. And boy, you got to be careful with this. Kyle, it was rough on us trying to raise you. And I've got you this far with you, Dad, so you're going to have to bring him home now. Please welcome Kyle Petty, Richard's only son.
I threatened Dale. I told him, watch what he said. I went after him. All right. You know, I'm here, obviously, to induct my father, Richard Petty, into the Hall of Fame. What a huge honor for our entire family, for everybody that's ever worked at Petty Enterprises. Richard Petty is the tip of the iceberg. But to have this honor for him and for our family is truly amazing. I can stand here and throw out numbers that we've all heard our entire life. If we wanted to be a Cup driver, we knew who Richard Petty was, and we knew what the mark was on the wall that we had to reach. And it's truly amazing to me, just like you saw the video there, that Dale Jr. said, my God, he's been racing 50 years. You know, he drove a car that long. To a lot of people, he did, because a whole new generation of fans know him as Mr. the King in the movie Cars. And that pretty much defines his career right there, okay? What amazes me about my father is this, and I told this story a little bit one time before. As a driver, everything he did. But when I was growing up, our house was right next door to the race shop, and he would come home for lunch, go to work in the morning, 7 or 8 o'clock. He'd get up early, he'd go to the shop, kind of hang out at the shop, work on the car. You saw him beating on the roof of that car because he was a fabricator. And everybody worked on the car. Drivers worked on the car, everybody. But he would come home for lunch when I was young and have lunch, and then he'd lay down in the middle of the living room floor, and he'd sleep until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then he'd get up and he'd go back to work. And I never found that strange until you look at his career and you think the man won 200 races, 7 Daytona 500s, 7 championships, working half days, okay? So I just want you to think about that. Because no. That may be the greatest statistic of all time to me. I think for us, you know, Richard Petty is multifaceted, and I think you have to look at that. We all know who he is as a driver, and everybody does, everybody. But Richard Petty was also a teacher, and I think he taught the sport a lot. As he came along and as the sport grew and as the sport changed, he was one of the first to embrace the media and to understand what the media meant to the sport and to him and to sponsors as sponsors came into the sport. He taught that to the other drivers, and he's taught that to generations of drivers since then, to the Earnhardts, to the Labanis, to the Jimmy Johnsons and the Jeff Gordons and the Tony Stewarts of the day. We still follow that model. He was also the teacher that taught you when you did something wrong, he didn't mind coming to your truck and talking to you. And, you know, doing speed now and doing some things with speed, I get a chance to spend time with Darrell. And Darrell will attest that Richard Petty has the longest finger in the world when he's talking to you, okay? I knew that a long time, but it was nice to know that somebody else got that finger in the chest and got the point explained to him. And you may have an opinion on that, but you're not allowed to voice it at that time. The other thing that I think my father taught to the drivers and to the sport was how to win, but also how to lose. And that's an important part, and that's an important thing to be. Richard Petty was the same, win, lose, or draw. Richard Petty was the same Monday, he was the same Thursday, he was the same Sunday afternoon, whether he was standing in victory lane with a check and a trophy, or whether he was riding home with a beat-up race car. He was the same. And I think that even keel and that even temperament is something that we've all aspired to do as we came along in his footsteps and in his shadows to be the driver that he was. The last thing for me that Richard Petty is, and I'll let you in on the biggest secret in the world that probably no one knows, is this. He is the biggest fan of the sport that ever lived. And I think that's what made him a great race car driver. He loves this sport. He carries a passion for this sport. He loved to drive. He loved to work on it. He loved the guys he raced against. He loved the fans. He loved everything about this sport. And on a Sunday afternoon in 2010, you can still find Richard Petty walking through the garage area, standing on top of a truck, watching a race. He doesn't have to be there. He wants to be there. Just like all of you people out here and the people that are watching at home, he is a fan first and foremost. And bringing that passion to this sport has made him the legend that he is. It's incredible to see the fan reaction. We talk about signing autographs. We talk about all that. And he does that because he expects that from the fans or from the drivers that he pulled for and the people that he chose to watch. He gives back because he takes so much. He feeds off the fans because he is a fan. For me, that's who he is as a race car driver. That's who he is for the sport. That's what he's meant to the sport. But for my sister Sharon and my sister Lisa and my sister Rebecca, he's our father. He's always been our father, and we love him more than anything in the world. And today, he goes into the Hall of Fame as Richard Petty, the race car driver. But for us, and always will be, the man that we call Daddy and the man that we love. So, I'd like to bring my father, Richard Petty, up to be inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Good job. Good job. Hold it short. Yeah. All right. Nope. That's yours.
You reading that?
No, I'm not reading that. Yeah, I have to read that part of it.
Okay, read it.
Just so y'all know, you won Daytona in what, 71?
Yep.
Yeah. I stole that Rolex from him, so I'm wearing the 1971 Daytona 500 Rolex. And this may be on my finger before too much longer. Okay, so I got to read this. Wait a minute. On this day, the 23rd of May, 2010, it's my honor to induct my father, Mr. the King, Richard Petty, into the NASCAR Hall of Fame and present you with this Hall of Fame ring.
You done good on that.
That was good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Getting things going on. I guess it's my turn to thank everybody and everything. I want to start off with thanking the two most important people in Richard Petty's life, Lee and Elizabeth Petty, for bringing me into the world. Okay? And, next, naturally, Linda's been trying to put up with me and Kyle and all the girls now for like 51 years. So, without her sort of looking after things at home when I was out wandering around with the race car having a big time, then I wouldn't be here, and a lot of my kids probably wouldn't be here. And I would like to have my kids and grandkids stand up over here and see what I got to put up with, okay? All right, all the girls, Linda Gale. All right. Thank you, guys. Okay, I want to say thank you to Big Bill France, okay? You've seen before, he was the one that sort of got everything started, had all the people to follow him around. He didn't demand as much as he commanded, I think. He was able to convince people whether it was right, wrong, or different to really get the job done. And then we were fortunate enough to have Bill Jr. to come along, Jim, Lisa, all the people behind him that made it work. Not only from the NASCAR deal, but from the promoters, car owners, all the people that got behind and made it work. And I know y'all have heard me say this a lot of times. NASCAR would make a rule, might not be that good a rule, but the participants made the rule look good, made it work.
So it was a combination. Everybody was doing their own thing, but we all came together at the end because we wanted racing to really work. And, you know, there's nobody probably had a better situation. I was born to a racer, grew up around racing, had a brother, had my cousin Dale, to make the nucleus of one of the best racing teams that's ever been on the face of the planet. And, you know, to have all the people that surrounded those people. I've never done anything. We as a group did a lot, and we as a group here do a lot. And, you know, the deal of having the manufacturers work with us, to have sponsors now to work with us to make things work is just phenomenal. And as we grow, we started as a Southern sport. It got more interesting. We were able to go out and progress as far as getting TV, getting R.J. Reynolds to become involved in the thing to make it a bigger show, to make bigger races. And, you know, I guess we go back and say, you know, that's all well and good, but without the press and the TV, we'd still be a Southern sport. It took those people to pre-sell us all over the country, to be able to bring in our big TV contracts and bring everything else in perspective. And they were the ones then that went out and really told everybody about all of our racing, and they were the ones that brought the fans in. And the fans then is what it's all about, guys. We wouldn't be here if it hadn't been the fans. There wouldn't be a Richard Petty. There wouldn't be a NASCAR. But the press was telling the fans about NASCAR. The fans came, and the fans developed a real love for it. So, you know, I appreciate being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I appreciate the guys that voted for me, and you know, look forward to what's coming down the road. And I guess I'm going to do like Gomer Pyle. I'm just going to say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
NASCAR's first generation built the sport, but NASCAR's second generation of leadership brought our sport to America's supermarket aisles and into our living rooms on live television.
He would take a driver's car away if he wanted to, but he ruled NASCAR with a soft heart as well as a heavy hand, bringing his love for racing to the masses. Coming up, the induction of Bill France Jr. The 2010 NASCAR Hall of Fame inaugural induction ceremony will return in a moment.
From one Hall of Famer to another, congratulations to the first class of inductees being honored at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. It's great seeing Bill France Sr., the King, Richard Petty, the legendary Junior Johnson inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I believe in NASCAR. Way to go, guys.
Welcome back to the 2010 NASCAR Hall of Fame inaugural induction ceremony. Here again is Mike Joy.
Bill France Sr. and Richard Petty are now inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. The former director of NASCAR's West Series has also held the long-time unofficial title of NASCAR's West Coast Ambassador. He was also the longtime loyal friend of Bill France Jr. Would you please welcome Ken Clapp.
Thank you, Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful day for so many hundreds of thousands of people. As Mike mentioned, Bill Jr. and I indeed were friends. and we spent a lot of time together on the West Coast through the years. When NASCAR was first getting started, Bill France Sr., Big Bill, had a motto for his vision, NASCAR being a nationwide sport. He called it Sea to Shining Sea, which meant, of course, coast-to-coast stock car racing under the NASCAR banner. Bill Jr. made that happen, and of course, he made many, many other things happen.
NASCAR has always been a family business. When Bill France Jr. took over in 1972, he remembered what his father taught him.
My father taught me one thing, is you either get bigger or you get smaller. You can't stand still.
I can't think of anyone else who could have gone in there at the time that he took over, and there were some problems in the sport at that time.
I mean, when we had the energy crisis, he came up with a plan of how we were going to conserve fuel, to catch can and cut the races down. There were so many new things going on at the time when Bill Jr. came in that he had to have the vision, the foresight to where to take the sport.
I don't think anybody that I know, including Bill France Sr., that could have took the sport to where it is today.
If you had to say one bad thing about him, what would you say? I don't know what it'd be. He's kept the sport clean.
One of Bill Jr.'s first achievements in helping further build the sport was securing R.J. Reynolds as the top division series sponsor. NASCAR Craftsman, now Camping World Truck Series.
He just expanded it probably beyond what he thought he could do, to go in and take chances and go into new markets, knowing that the sponsors and the fans and the manufacturers were all wanting to go in that direction.
He was a constant presence in the garage, so he could relate to the people of his sport. And he held to his own traditions and values. Like his father before him, his leadership kept the family business whole and the future strong.
What I think one of the things when the President of the United States, therefore, in an event, we made the front page of the New York Times, which at that point in time, the only time anybody from racing ever got on the front page was when there was a serious accident of some kind.
I really don't think that the people will ever get the full concept of Bill France Jr.'s impact on NASCAR racing.
There's not a corporation in the country that wouldn't like to have a CEO like Bill Jr. He has made his company successful.
Bill Gates or none of them guys, I don't think has ever done a better job than what Bill France did.
The visionary of Bill France Jr. to see this sport grow the way it has, to see the stadiums that we race at today, it's been a fascinating experience.
I think he would like to be known as someone who made a huge difference in motorsports and someone who contributed a lot to the sport. I think that would be the one thing that he would like to leave.
Bill France Jr. left NASCAR even more grand than he found it. He was the next generation who expanded the family business for future generations.
Bill France Jr., as we all know, was a car guy, a real car guy. He could take engines apart, put them back together again. He loved cars, particularly fast cars. He also loved fishing, deep sea fishing. It's only natural that when someone who loves fast cars as well as deep sea fishing officially inducts Bill France Jr. into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Rick Hendrick obviously loves cars. He has a tremendous number of dealerships all over the country. By the way, he started with one small dealership in Bennettsville, South Carolina, and made it the most successful, profitable dealership in the region. The rest is history. Rick Hendrick has won more NASCAR championships than any other car owner. He also won national championship in drag boat racing. There are probably a few folks in the NASCAR garage who wish he had stuck with boats. His name is synonymous with NASCAR, especially in most recent years. One of his drivers, Jimmy Johnson, has won 4 Sprint Cup championships in a row. Both Bill France Jr. and Rick Hendrick shared a bond that many successful businessmen share. Hard work, surround yourself with good people, and don't worry about the things you can't do anything about. The hard work part really impressed Bill because Rick put in as many hours as Bill did. We all know that was a lot. Please welcome Mr. Rick Hendrick.
Thank you, Ken. And first, I'd like to congratulate all inductees and their families, the Earnhardt family here on the front row, the France family, Junior Johnson, his family, and Richard Petty and your family. Congratulations to you folks. You made this sport what it is, and without you, we wouldn't be here today. So let's give them another hand. Thank you. I am proud and honored and humbled today to induct my friend Bill France Jr. into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I was honored when Betty Jane asked me to do this. And I knew that I couldn't do it justice, but I'm going to try. You know, Bill lived an astonishing life. He didn't have anything handed to him. If you know the France family, you've got to work for what you get. And so Bill sold snow cones, chased people that got into the racetrack without paying, and escorted them off the track. And he actually helped build Talladega with his own hands. Drove a bulldozer to do both Talladega and Daytona. So he grew up the hard way. He served our country in the Navy, and when he came back and took the helm at NASCAR, that was about the time that I got involved. And Harry Hyde gave me some really good advice. He said, don't ask Mr. France anything. If you see Bill France coming through the garage area, you go the other way. If he wants to talk to you, he'll find you. But other than that, you best just leave him alone. Well, I had this tremendous fear of this guy, and I didn't know how anybody that was so successful could be that tough. And I found out years later. I went to the trailer, and I've had some of the worst thrashings I ever had. I would rather he beat me with a stick than have to sit there and get it by the tongue. But Bill did some phenomenal things. If you think back to the Winston sponsorship, and bringing R.J. Reynolds and Winston into the sport. And you think about the TV deal that we celebrate today, and what's really catapulted us from a regional sport to a national sport, then to an international sport. And Bill had this unique way of separating his professional feelings and his personal feelings. Now, I'll tell you a couple of stories about his professional feelings. And Richard Childress is sitting down here on the front row today. If you saw the movie Days of Thunder, that movie was created a lot after a meeting that Mr. France had with Richard Childress and myself, Dale Earnhardt, and Jeff Bodine. I got a call one day, and it didn't say, how's your calendar look for the next 2 or 3 days? Are you busy next week? It said, you get Bodine, and you be in my office in Daytona at 5 o'clock next Thursday. So Richard and I, we'd spent a lot of money on race cars at that point, hadn't we, Richard? So we ended up in Daytona. And I thought we were going to watch movies, you know, and try to figure out who did what to whom. And so Richard and I sat there, and Bill started off with the speech he's given me many times. This sport is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. And it's going to be here when we're all gone. And that's the way he ran the ship. He told Richard, he said, Richard, I don't know what you can do if you don't do this. He said, I guess Rick can go back and sell used cars in Charlotte. And he looked at Dale and he said, Dale, you make a pretty good living doing this. I don't know what you're going to do if you're not driving a race car. And he told Jeff Bodine, he said, now you might go back to New York. I don't know what you did before you got here and don't care. And he said, now we're going to go and eat dinner. And Dale said, you know, I've got an appointment. I can't make it. And Bill said, there's a phone over there. You change your appointment. So Richard and I rode in the car together, and Dale and Bodine rode in the car together, and the rest is history. If you saw those two on the track, you could drive another car between them, and you'd have no problems. The second story that was probably one that Jeff Gordon got me in the middle of this one. Drivers always get me in trouble, if not the crew chiefs, the drivers. But we won Indy, which was a huge race, and there's a lot of celebration. So we were, you know, taking pictures and getting rings and drinking champagne and doing all the things you need to do. And one of the NASCAR officials said, Mike Helton wants to see you in the trailer. And I thought he wanted to congratulate me on the race. And about 20 minutes later, I had another NASCAR official said, Mr. Helton wants to see you now. And then I thought, uh-oh, we're too low, we're too high, we're too wide, we're too short, we're too something. And so I better get down to the trailer. So I walk in, and Mike is sitting there. And let me kind of set it up for you. Before that week, drivers were getting out of their cars and knocking the NASCAR sponsors off the roof. And this particular race, Jeff stopped out in the middle of the track and got out and was saluting the fans, which I thought was really cool. But when I got to the trailer, I found out how uncool that really was. Mike said, your problem is not with me. He said, you need to call Bill. And I said, well, I don't really need to call Bill. What's the problem? He said, no, your problem's not with me. You need to call Bill. So he said, there's a phone right over there. So I go over there and I said, well, I don't know his number. He said, I'll dial it for you. And I take the phone and I'm going to say, hey, Bill. But when the phone rang and he knew that it was this number calling in, he said, hello? And he started to cuss me. I mean, for 15 minutes, I got it. I mean, just, you have that little blank, blank, blank Jeff Gordon down here in my office in the morning at 9 o'clock. And if you can't make it and he can't make it, don't you even think about carrying your car to Watkins Glen. You're done. And he said, but it doesn't affect our fishing trip. So I immediately called Jeff and I said, Jeff, do not answer your cell phone. So immediately Jeff's on the defensive. He says, well, now, you know, I said, Jeff, he's the maddest I've ever seen him. Do not answer your cell phone. I'm telling you, turn your cell phone off. Let's give it a couple of days. Maybe we can talk to Brian and we'll see what we can do. When you think about Bill, you think about a guy that was feared, a guy that was respected, and a guy that could be the best friend a man ever had. And when I look, Richard, at this podium right here, and you can pick it up and you can get the history, I know that Bill was not alive when you designed that, because it's free. You would have to put a quarter in it if you wanted to listen to any story about Bill. Now, I got to tell you, too, that there was a real soft side of Bill, and he's really going to be upset with me for telling this. But we shared something that was common to both of us, and it was called cancer. And I actually went down after 2 years of chemotherapy, and Bill met me, and I could hardly walk to get off the plane. It had been, the treatment had killed me. Just getting up, getting dressed, and getting to the airport wore me out, but getting down there just was even worse. And he said, when I got in the car, I had to help me get in the car, excuse me. And he said, "Man, you don't look too good." And he grabbed my hand, and I saw a tear run down his eye. And I was so touched that he felt that way. Then we had to crash in '04. And I know Bill France was going through cancer, so he didn't need to come to Charlotte. But he said, "I want to come have lunch with you. I'm going to be in town." And after lunch, he said, "I just wanted to see that you were okay." And that's the soft side of Bill France. He was compassionate, but he was a hammer when he needed to be, and our sport needed that. But above all else, Bill France was a family man. He loved his family. He loved Lisa and Brian, Jim, Betty Jane, and he bragged on you guys all the time. And, in closing, I'd like to now bring to the stage please join me with the welcoming the CEO of International Speedway Corporation, NASCAR's Vice Chairwoman, Lisa France Kennedy, and NASCAR's Chairman and CEO, Brian France.
Thank you, Rick. I have to tell you, this is a huge honor today for me, Brian, and our entire France family. We are so humbled to be here, and I know my dad would have been so touched to be a part of this inaugural class. He had great respect for Junior, for Richard, and of course, Dale was one of his own. He always felt that way. Dad did say that the sport was always bigger than any one person. He always said that, but it also applied to himself. He didn't mind reminding other people of that as well, but he applied it to himself. Dad was tough. There's no doubt about it. He was a tough man, and he was demanding, but he had every single right to be, because he expected more from himself. He always did. He loved this sport. He was passionate about it, and he built it literally from the ground up. And when I say the ground up, I'm talking about a backhoe at Daytona International Speedway. On the personal side, I just had a couple of quick stories, but vacations, Talladega. Our summer vacations were definitely Talladega. And Brian and I were afforded the right to work. That was what our summer vacation was all about. And he instilled that work ethic in everything that he did. I'd also tell you that holidays, that was an opportunity to plan for the next season. So he'd have a chance to get everybody together. Loved fishing. Rick absolutely loved it. It was one of his great passions with you and all the boys. It was always so much fun for him. He was a guy that loved a great French restaurant. There's no doubt about that, but his favorite place was a hot dog stand at any one of his NASCAR tracks. Absolutely. And I have to tell you, too, that my mom, boy, she deserves a medal, too. This woman is absolutely amazing. And the 50-year partnership that they had together has every bit as much to do with who Bill France was and how this sport was built. So my dad liked the term straight shooter. That referred to a good business person. And my dad was a straight shooter. And I have to tell you, too, if you were his friend, he would do anything in the world for you. But for me, I was just lucky to call him Dad. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, in my world, I wear a lot of hats. Today, I've only got one on. I'm a very proud son of my father, certainly of my grandfather, and the other three champions. But of my father, he was this incredible combination of being, as we've heard from Rick and others, incredibly tough guy, yet had the compassion and certainly the pragmatism and smarts to keep the sport rolling for 30 plus years under his watch. It's been pretty incredible. You know, of all the people that work with him, I've got one distinction besides being his son that no one else has. I was fired more by my father, I know, than anybody. He was very tough on me in that respect. But you know what? I always knew with my dad that he was also my greatest champion. He had a sometimes tough time expressing it and all that, but you always knew with my dad, if he believed in you and you shot straight, he was going to be there when it got tough or when you needed somebody to lean on. And he was going to be fair. And you know what, I want to say just a couple of other quick remarks. You know, this business, when you're in our family and all the families that represent this industry, it's tough. It's tough because it's a weekend sport, puts strains on the best of marriages, and we work together. That's not an easy thing, our family, but we, in some cases, but it all works because somebody has the vision at the time to look out for the sport and what's good for everyone. And that was my father. And frankly, my mother, who doesn't get nearly enough credit for being an amazing champion of his throughout everything. So with that, I'll leave you on one last note. One of the great quotes that I ever saw was on a headline in a newspaper when I was in Talladega, probably as a teenager. And it said about my father, from mowing the grass to painting the fences to running Autosport's biggest show. I'm very, very proud of my father.
Junior Johnson was a driver, an owner, and became one of NASCAR's most colorful and endearing personalities. Once labeled the last American hero, he was a pioneer of NASCAR behind the wheel and in the garage. He understood speed like no other. Coming up, Junior Johnson receives his ring and makes his way into the hall. The 2010 NASCAR Hall of Fame inaugural induction ceremony will return in a moment.
Junior Johnson has gotten his lead back. Bobby Johns is just inches behind. There's the white flag for the final lap. Junior Johnson is still ahead, but not by much. And here they come roaring down to the finish line. There's the checkered flag, and it's Junior Johnson. The winner's over Bobby Johns. Junior Johnson, you've really got the guts and nerve and skill that are the mark of a true champ.
Backstage with Darrell Waltrip, Tom Wolfe famously wrote about him, Bruce Springsteen sang about him, Hollywood immortalized him. To me, Junior Johnson's always been bigger than life. What's it going to mean to you to present your boyhood hero?
Yeah, you know, Mike, he was my first hero in racing.
Like I've told you many times, trying to find a race on a little transistor radio to find out what's going on in NASCAR. And there was this guy named Junior Johnson. And just all the things about Junior Johnson were intriguing to a young man like me. And I thought, wow, maybe I'll get to meet him someday. And today, I get the honor.
Will make us proud.
You got it.
Please welcome the lead analyst for NASCAR on Fox and Speed and three-time Cup Series champion, Darrell Waltrip.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd just like to congratulate all the inductees today, their families. Linda Petty, especially to you, nice to see you here today. This room is full of NASCAR royalty today, and this truly has become and will become the Mount Rushmore of our sport. And I don't think we can give Winston Kelly and all the people that have put this thing together in a very short period of time and done an amazing job. I just don't think we can give them a big enough hand often enough. So I'd just like to give Winston and everybody that's worked on this thing so many people have dreamed about someday that NASCAR would have their own Hall of Fame. There are a lot of great Hall of Fames around the country, but none that was NASCAR's Hall of Fame. So it's an honor to be here today, and it's an honor to induct Junior into the Hall of Fame. But I'd be a little remiss if I didn't tell a few Junior stories. I had some really good ones, and I spoke to Junior a little bit ago, and he said, "Darrell, don't forget I get the last word." So with that, thought I might ought to get rid of those. And basically just tell you about the man that I have admired, respected, and truly was my childhood hero. When I think about Junior and when I was growing up, and the mystique around this guy, I mean, he was from the moonshine capital of the world in Wilkes County. He got caught stoking a still. And I didn't know what that meant at the time, but it sounded interesting to me. But he got caught, and he went to prison, and he served a little time. And he came back out, and when he did, he really dedicated himself to racing. And Junior became, as Tom Wolfe said, and as Mike and I were talking about, Junior became the last American hero. Now, everybody in this sport, we all, we got a lot of nicknames. We got the Intimidator, and we got the King, and heck, Fire, I even had a nickname, and some other guys did too. But Junior was the last American hero. And that always, in and of itself, told me a lot about Junior Johnson. The first time I went to his shop to meet Junior, to talk about possibly me driving for him, we went downtown North Wilkesboro there in a little office, he and his attorney, and I had my attorney with me. And I was coming out of a deal that I had about a 150-page contract that I had been involved in. And so when I sat down with Junior, I was expecting a long, drawn-out affair. And in about 5 minutes, he and his attorney wrote out a few things on a piece of paper, slid them over to Ed Silva and I, and said, there's your deal. And basically, Ed and I looked at each other like, wow, this is weird. No negotiation, no anything. Junior says, I'll pay you this much money, you'll drive my car, and we'll win races. And it was just that simple. As my attorney was sitting there, and like I said, we'd been in some pretty heavy negotiations with Dygard and some others at the time, my attorney looked over at Junior and said, Junior, one last thing. I need to ask you something. What are you going to do for DW if he wins the championship? Junior never batted an eye. He had on a little pair of half glasses. He looked over the top of me and said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do to him if he don't. That was part of the big deal about driving for Junior. Of course, everybody knew he had the best car in the sport, and Cale had won 3 consecutive championships in it, and I was chomping at the bit to get in that car. And can you imagine that one of your biggest rivals would come to you and say that Junior wants to hire you?
Well, that's what Cale Yarborough did for me. Cale came to me in 1980. He said, I'm going to leave juniors, and he wants to hire you, and if you're smart, you'll figure out a way to get in that car because you'll win a lot of races and a lot of money. Well, I wasn't very smart, but I did figure out a way to get that done, and certainly the rest is pretty much history. I go to the shop for the first time, and it's out behind his house, and I have this vision that it would be a factory, like Raj Mahal, like what some of the shops are today, but it's not. It's just a little shop behind Junior's house. I had a vision of hundreds of employees, but it wasn't. It was only 10 or 15. I walked through the shop, and I looked around, and I said, and Hammond was with me. I said, Hammond, who built that? Now, Hammond, where'd that come from? Who thought of that? Who's the mastermind behind all this stuff? And Hammond said, Junior Johnson. And I looked out down the hill, and there was a man with a pair of bib overalls on, a mule, and a plow, plowing his garden. I said, Hammond, is that Junior Johnson? That was Junior Johnson. I said, why would he plow his garden with a mule when he has a perfectly good brand new tractor over here? But that's who Junior was. Junior was a simple man, but he had an amazing mind. He was a genius. He could look at something, he could take something, he could feel it, he could watch it work, and he could make it better. And Junior he could improvise. He created the bootleg turn. Now, I didn't have any idea that he was the first guy that ever did that. But do you know what a bootleg turn is? Oh, come on. A bootleg turn is when you're flying down the highway with a load of shine in the back, and the road is blocked, and you got to get going the other direction in a pretty big hurry. So Junior learned that when he saw that happen, he'd lock that thing down, turn it around 180 degrees, and head back the other way. And that became known as the bootleg turn. Junior also, when he went to Daytona, he had a car that was not as fast as everybody else's. Junior didn't like that. Junior never liked to have a car that was not faster than everybody else's. But on this particular occasion, he had to figure out a way to hang with the guys that were faster than him. So he learned about the draft. Junior Johnson, the thing that we all use today to huge advantages, Junior Johnson discovered the draft at Daytona. Junior was an innovator. Junior was always thought outside the box, and the things that he did were first. And let me tell you, if you want to make Junior Johnson happy, just do something first before anybody else does. Junior was not a follower. Junior was a leader. When NASCAR said they were going to have the awards banquet in New York, it wasn't a matter of if we win the championship. We will win the championship, and we will sit at that head table in 1981. And there's so many other things that Junior did. He's had a highway named after him. He's not in this hall just because he's a great driver with 50 wins, but he's also a great car owner. Most of us probably know him best as a car owner, but he's also an intelligent, great businessman. Junior Johnson is a humble man. I don't think I ever heard him brag on himself. He was just always telling other people what they should do and how they should do it, and if they did it his way, they'd be successful like him. He's been a great friend of mine. I can't imagine, my 6 years of driving for Junior defined my career. I'll tell you a quick story. Now, this is kind of like after the fact, but I left up there and I went to drive for Rick, and somebody asked me what it was like to get out of Junior's car and get in Rick's car. I said, oh, shucks, man. That's like getting off a mule and getting on a thoroughbred. Well, they went back and told Junior what I'd said, and Junior said, I don't know nothing about that. I had a jackass up here and I ran him off. That was Junior Johnson. And the other thing that after I started my own team, and this is why when he tells you I get the last word, you have to really be careful. But when I had my own team, somebody asked Junior how he thought I'd do. And he said, well, he's finally got an owner as smart as a driver. and the Junior Johnson stories go on and on and on. The man is quick-witted, lots of one-liners. He looks, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but he looks better to me today than he did when I was driving for him, I can tell you. He's really looks in great shape, and he's got his young son over here, Robert, and he says he wants to get back in racing. And Brian, sorry, brother, but if he does, you got your hands full. That's all I can tell you. And Lisa, Meredith, Robert, what you say we take a look at a video about Junior?
Robert Glenn Jr. Johnson became a national figure in 1964 when author Tom Wolfe wrote a famous article about him entitled "The Last American Hero." It made Johnson a folk hero, and the story of his life mirrored the history of his sport. He grew up running moonshine on the back roads of North Carolina. Before he ever raced for a checkered flag, he spent his youth trying to avoid a jail cell by driving faster than the law.
As time went along in the late 40s, that's when I started, getting into the whiskey business and doing stuff, in the whiskey business.
Junior Johnson was my hero. He drove this white 63 Chevrolet with a 3 on the side of it. And the thing that always intrigued me was he had a 427 Chevrolet mystery engine.
Meanwhile, the Chevy engine, which wasn't supposed to last, has Johnson still in front.
Junior Johnson always wanted to run out front. It didn't make no difference where it was at, anything else. He wanted to run real hard. And he did run hard. And of course, he blowed up a lot.
There was really not a fight for who was going to win. It was almost a survival of if you finished, you had a chance to win.
He never drove full time, but after accomplishing everything he'd set out to do on the track, Johnson became a car owner. Behind the wheel of Junior's machines, Cale Yarborough won 3 consecutive titles.
Robert Glenn Jr. Johnson, a legend in his own right as a driver. Now he prepares the Oldsmobile for Cale Yarborough.
Junior Johnson, when Cale won those 3 championships in a row, I mean, he was building almost bulletproof cars back then. They were able to do a lot of good things together.
Had I stayed with Junior for another 5 or 6 years, who knows how many races we would have won and how many championships we would have won.
Johnson gave the keys to a new driver named Darrell Waltrip. In the 80s, Waltrip drove Junior's cars to 3 more series championships.
We didn't come to run second. I don't want you to save the car. You drive it as hard as it goes, and if it breaks, we'll build you a better one. That was his philosophy. And that's the way he liked for you to race, and that's the way he wanted you to race, because that's the way he raced. Well, it is the best car in NASCAR, and Junior is the smartest man in NASCAR, and I think he proves it week in and week out.
I think advancing in the sport was something that was a natural for me. I mean, you give me a problem that you had with a race, a car, or something other, I could fix it.
From every corner, Junior Johnson shaped the sport. As a driver, he invented the art of drafting. As an owner, he built championship cars and discovered championship drivers. As a statesman, he helped bring in NASCAR's first title sponsor, R.J. Reynolds' Winston brand. Junior Johnson was among the best at everything he ever did, and NASCAR benefited.
I had a good time in it. I had a good racing, driving career in it. I had a good car owner career, and I just had a great time with it. I gave a lot back to it, too.
He was a moonshiner from North Carolina, a stock car racing pioneer, and the last American hero. Junior Johnson's life is what legends are made of, and his legacy helped make NASCAR what it is today.
Before I bring Winston up, this is priceless. I got to share it with you. I'm sitting by Robert. Robert says, "Hey, DW, did you hear about that $20 million that they're offering to somebody who can win Indy and Charlotte?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Man, what do you think about that?" He said, "I'd run over everybody out there for that $20 million. So apples don't roll too far from a tree. It's my privilege to welcome the Executive Director of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, Winston Kelly.
Got to be somewhere to put a dollar bill changer in there. I think he'd want to up the price now. Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Darrell, for that kind introduction. Since taking this position nearly 4 years ago, I've had so many incredible experiences getting to work with and honor my childhood heroes like Petty, Johnson, Pearson, the Allisons, Jarrett, and many more. Those of you who know me know that I'm very seldom speechless. Those of you who work with me wish I were a bit more often. I was completely speechless, however, but incredibly humbled and honored the day that Lisa and Junior Johnson asked me to assist DW in the induction of our next honoree. While there may be many of you who work a bit more closely with Junior over the years than I, there are none who have any more admiration for Junior than I do. I'm not here today as the Executive Director of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, but I'm here as one of you, one of the fans, and someone from within the industry who has an incredible appreciation for all that Junior Johnson has done for the sport of NASCAR. Following the selection of this year's class, the debates over who got in and who did not permeated all forms of the media. Debates that will, no doubt, occur and continue each and every year. There was clearly no right or no wrong in selecting from so many deserving nominees. Following the selections, one person's perspective on this class was that this class is about what these people did for NASCAR as well as what they did in NASCAR. And Junior's contributions both for and in NASCAR are literally staggering. In this position, I've not publicly discussed who I voted for out of respect for all the nominees, as each one is clearly deserving and each, in my humble opinion, will eventually be inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. But I must say that from the beginning, I believe that Junior should be in our inaugural class. And as you've seen from the video and heard from DW and others, not for one reason, but for a whole host of reasons, his prowess as a driver, as an owner, as an innovator, and his selfless contributor to NASCAR are well documented. But although Junior admittedly redirected R.J. Reynolds to NASCAR when they came to talk with him about sponsoring his team, it didn't stop from the occasional good-natured needling of Bill Jr. about NASCAR stealing his sponsor when RJR opted to only sponsor the Winston Cup Series and deferred to sponsoring Junior's team until a few years later. While I'd known and been around Junior for over 25 years through working with Motor Racing Network and our great mutual friend Barney Hall, I've come to really appreciate him and his insights over the last 4 years. When we wanted to provide our exhibit design team a NASCAR 101 course, among the first that we sought out were Junior and the King. He not only openly welcomed us, he actually invited us up to have breakfast. And if you can just picture the faces of these New York exhibit designers, one in an Armani suit, as we walk into this old shop that DW talked about, where JR is standing there in those trademark bib overalls, personally scrambling the eggs. He spent the next 3 hours, we did, listening, but more importantly, learning. If we were learning about the piano, we would have clearly been sitting with Beethoven. Among Junior's trademarks as an owner were innovation and attention to details. Well, early in the project, we asked him if he could provide us perhaps some renderings or maybe a small replica of a moonshine still to help our guests make the connection between moonshine runners, fast cars in the early years of racing. Well, he proceeded to build us a full-size still, and then he personally delivered it. And in January of this year, we were a bit confounded with how to connect some of the pipes. So we called Junior and requested that he perhaps talk us through it by telephone. That wasn't good enough. Instead, less than 3 hours later, JR shows up to connect it himself. Now again, the looks on the faces of the construction crew, if you can just imagine this, were priceless. as Junior walks through this construction site with hard hat, safety vest and glasses like you may have seen earlier, and channel locks and a pipe wrench in hand, and steps inside the exhibit to install it himself. And with apologies to our great partners, these tools were clearly not ones that were recently purchased down the road at Lowe's. They had been around the block a time or two. And I must admit that I mistakenly told people that this still doesn't work. Well, I must clarify that. It's just not currently operational. I have been advised, I have been advised by the master itself that it would work with a little bit of fire and maybe a little bit of mash. So I thought a lot, though, about how to describe Junior Johnson, and there's so many words you've heard him: winner, champion, innovator, leader. But if I had to start with a couple, I would start with genuine. And Webster's describes genuine as free from pretense or hypocrisy. And then I would go to authentic, which Webster says is true to one's own personality, spirit, or character. And I can think of no better way to describe our next inductee than genuine, authentic, and sincere. And at this time, I would like to ask a very special person to join me on stage who will introduce his father as our next NASCAR Hall of Fame inductee. So if you please join me in welcoming to the stage Junior's son, Robert Glenn Johnson III.
Thank you, Winston. It is an honor to be here with my dad celebrating his induction into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. It's great to see him being recognized for all of his accomplishments in racing. And to all of you racers out there that have raced for or with my dad, you know there are two rules to follow when around him. Rule number one, he's always right. And rule number two, if he's ever wrong, just refer back to rule number one. I would just like to finish by saying that although my father may be going into the NASCAR Hall of Fame today, he's always been a Hall of Fame dad in my heart. Please join me in welcoming in our next inductee and my father, Junior Johnson. On this day, the 23rd of May, 2010, it is truly my honor and privilege to induct my dad, Junior Johnson, into the NASCAR Hall of Fame and present this Hall of Fame inductee ring. I love you, Dad.
Well, I was up here with two, now by myself. I've come along with a lot of people that I've had, things that didn't go right between us and stuff like that. But talking about Bill Jr., me and him was every week we was in a clash or something or other. Then when that was over with, we was the best friend you ever been with anybody. He'd invite you to go out to get a sandwich or something or other. But I have to say that what he meant to the sport and what he brought to the table, it didn't make no difference if you was right or wrong. It was his way. And he didn't try to make you believe what he thought. He'd just tell you what he wasn't going to do this or he wasn't going to do that or he would do it and stuff like that. Big Bill, I always had a good relationship with him also. In fact, I've had relationships where I would tell him that I'd hear somebody was wanting to get into racing and stuff of that nature and sponsor, you know, the races and stuff, and I'd tell him about it, and he'd go get them. And I was all time dealing with the motor companies, and he needed the motor companies in the sport. If I got into them where I could get stuff to do what I need to do to race, I'd tell him he needed to go court them a little bit and bring the whole thing in. And we did that on several people. Ford, General Motors. I never did work with Chrysler. You know, that was Richard Petty's stuff, and I didn't fool with it. But you know, I had Oldsmobile, Pontiac, and all them people that I could go talk to and get them to do stuff for the sport. And helping France along in his side of the way. When I was first starting to driving, I'd just run a race or two, and then I'd, you know, get back into my whiskey business and make the money that I need to run another race or two, you know. And one time I was down in Atlanta, and I was at the Holiday Inn, and I hadn't raced in 3 or 4 races. And Big Bill come out and sat down at his table. I just sat down and ordered my breakfast, and they just set it on the table. And he come over and sat down and said, "Junior, I want to talk to you. I want you to run all the races, and you're committed to run all the races." And I sat there and thought a minute, and I looked down at my plate, and I had bacon and eggs on my plate. I said, "No, Bill, I ain't committed to racing. For instance, I'll tell you how it worked. And look at my plate when I'm telling you." I said, "The hen that laid that egg was involved. The hog that bacon come off from was committed." And, you know, every time I'd see him from that on, he'd say, "Are you committed or are you involved?" Sometimes he'd catch me cheating, and I told him, I said, "Now I'm just involved, I ain't committed." He'd burn me up and let me go, and I'd take off and do something else. It was not hardly to rules and stuff, but I had a great relationship with both of them. It was not, I was trying to, you know, fight them for what they was doing. I was helping as much as I could. I gave more to racing than I think I got out of it. I'll tell you the honest God truth, because, you know, you're talking about like this race you run here yesterday, well, last night, really. Me and Jerry Long and Ralph Segrave would meet once a week out at Staley Steakhouse. And Jerry was you know, he was kind of gung-ho type person that wanted to do something special for racing. And he'd get me and Ralph out there, and both of them would get about 2/3 high, and I'd sit there and, you know, argue with him. And he wanted us to come in with something other would excite racing and stuff. And me and Ralph figured out, you know, we just kept talking and talking about it, and then we'd come back. And that's how that race was put in gear, with me and Ralph and Jerry Long. And like going to New York. We was down at Daytona, and air conditioning went out in the plaza up there where we was at. And Jerry was sitting there, and he pulled his coat off, and he was sweating like you know, he was hot, really, when the air conditioning went off. And I said, "Jerry, let's move this place somewhere or another where we got air conditioning." He said, "Y'all come up with a place, and we'll move it." And that's how we got to the New York at the Waldorf story. And that's a true story also. So I thought it helped racing, and it took us a lot farther in the sport to be in New York. If you want to promote anything, you really need to go to New York to do it. Because I just been up there promoting my whiskey in New York, got a great audience, and I think I'm going to do pretty good with it, to tell you the truth. But in all respect, my family over here, and Lisa and Meredith and Robert is the greatest thing ever happened to me. But being inducted into this Hall of Fame, it could never done anything that I appreciate anymore. With that, I just thank you, and I'm glad to be a part of this Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Like Junior Johnson, the only thing bigger than Dale Earnhardt's legend was his heart and his legions of fans. Earnhardt scrapped and scrambled to reach NASCAR's top tour, but once there, he became the biggest star of his era.
The Intimidator, son of Ironheart, wielded as much respect as fear. He had many foes, but won the hearts of millions of race fans. Coming up, Dale Earnhardt is given a home in the Hall of Fame. The 2010 NASCAR Hall of Fame inaugural induction ceremony will return in a moment.
Caution flag from turn 3.
That's all Earnhardt needed, just some racetrack up there to run on.
Checkered flag. Dale Earnhardt finally is a champion of the Daytona 500, the most anticipated moment in the history of NASCAR racing. Well, it's been a great race here this afternoon with Bill France Sr., Richard Petty, Bill France Jr., and Junior Johnson all inducted into the Hall of Fame. White flags in the air, 1 lap to go. To begin our final ceremony, please welcome back to the stage the president of NASCAR, Mike Helton.
Thank you, Mike. Now, one of NASCAR's greatest strengths is its character. And we've already inducted 4 men who contributed immensely to that aspect of our sport. This next inductee added probably the most character to our sport at the right time. He did that by being the working man's hero on the racetrack and off.
Just sheer guts and determination pretty well describes Dale Earnhardt, and a desire to win no matter what he did.
Dale Earnhardt gave the maximum effort every time he got in a race car.
Oh, Earnhardt in the grass.
He never laid down. He never quit. He always stayed up on top of the wheel.
He was going to be on that racetrack giving 110% every single lap of practice, every single lap of qualifying, and every single lap of that race.
He was going to do whatever he had to do to win that race, and it wasn't about being cordial, it wasn't about being polite, it was about, hey, I want this win, I'm going to take this win.
Earnhardt is making him work for any inch of ground they gained on him. He hangs on to the lead back in 1.
When the Wrangler Cowboy became the man in black, the Intimidator was born.
Dale Earnhardt not only dominated a lot of races and won a lot of races, but he was the Intimidator.
When you saw that black 3 coming, you knew if he was faster than you and you didn't get out of the way, you'd be hit.
You get your front end in there, you stand your ground. And a lot of times it comes out bad, but you know, a lot of times you win races too.
He knew how to lean on people. He knew how to put somebody out of the way permanently or just for the corner.
At some point in time in every race we ran, you had to deal with Dale. He never just pulled over and let you go. And if he did pull over and let you go, he said, now what did he do that for? Oh, bam, well, I know what he did that for. Now he wants to mess with me, you know? He was just really worry you to death to the point where you just kept wondering what he was doing more than what you were doing. And you just finally say, go on, man, you want it worse than I did.
When his talent and tenacity came together, Earnhardt tied Richard Petty's record of 7 championships.
Earnhardt matured, okay? He was always a diamond in the rough.
Earnhardt shuts Richard off at the third turn.
When he started, he was just rough. Didn't know a dang thing about driving. He was just saying, okay, just when I get there, I'll figure it out. And by the latter part of his career, he knew where he was at all times. And when he had to charge, he would. When he didn't have to, he did. So he started using his brain more than his brawn in his later years.
I think the fans were looking for something like that in the sport, and they got it with Dale Earnhardt.
He was the John Wayne figure of that time. When the door opened, he didn't worry about what was on the other side. He went on through to see.
People seen him just as a big, tough guy out on the racetrack driving the black number 3, but inside he was a real, genuine person.
Fans felt like Earnhardt was one of them. The winner's circle became a family circle. In the garage, he was both leader and prankster. And on the track, he was a champion.
Slides it sideways, and Earnhardt holds him off to win the race and knock down his 7th Winston Cup championship.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you, Dale. That's what you call a ass kick.
Daytona 500 was the one everybody said, well, Dale will never win that. Well, when he did, every person at every race car, they all lined up to shake his hand. That's what he meant to the sport, and it's what heroes are made of.
It takes a special type of an individual to accomplish what he did and to have the total following that he had. I don't think any of us realized how big his name was until his death.
Behind the wheel, he was a legend. Behind the legend, Dale Earnhardt was a man who will never be forgotten.
From Tracy and Hepburn, Martin and Lewis to Brooks and Dunn. Famous duos, famous successful duos in their fields are remembered by their chemistry that seemed to make the two of them one. There's no better person to induct Dale Earnhardt today than the man who was the other half of one of our most recognizable dynasties. He also happened to be Dale's best friend. Welcome to the stage, please, Richard Childress.
Practiced, I had a stand, so I'm going to have to kind of fake this. Thank you, Mike, and good afternoon. It's an honor to be part of this historic event. Winston Kelly, congratulations to you and everyone with the NASCAR Hall of Fame for making this dream come true. So let's give him a hand, the whole group. I would also like to congratulate all of the inductees and their families. The voting panel made the right choices for this first class of inductees. I'm very proud and honored to be part of inducting Dale Earnhardt into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. His mother, Martha, and all the family are here this afternoon, and I know how very proud they all are. And I know that Ralph Earnhardt and others are looking down proud as well. Martha, would you and the whole family please stand and be recognized? Great people. I'm already standing. I think I'm part of the family. I can remember the first time I heard Dale Earnhardt's name. My brother was a chief steward at Caraway Speedway in the mid-'70s. He called me one Sunday morning and said, if you ever want a driver, you got to look at this kid, Dale Earnhardt. He told me Dale was racing Butch Lindley, and they were going for the win, and Dale never checked up. He came across the finish line with 2 wheels on the fence and still won the race. Because of that, Dale Earnhardt became his own legend and style. You probably remember the pass in the grass. Coming from 17th to win Talladega in 2000, his last win, and winning the pole at Watkins Glen despite being hurt. And there's so many, many more we all can remember. Dale Earnhardt was a champion's champion. I'm often asked what type of driver Dale was. Dale was determined to win. He was the most competitive person in or out of a race car. And he could do more with a race car than anyone I've ever seen. But the biggest thing he once told me was, when it gets down to those last 50 laps, I want it more than anyone else. He had a drive to win, and it was in those last 50 laps that you saw the real Dale Earnhardt. I'll give you another quick story about Dale. It was something he actually said at Talladega. There were some drivers complaining and grumbling about going too fast. And he said, if you're afraid to go fast, stay the hell home. Don't come here and grumble about going too fast. Tie kerosene rags around your ankles so the ants won't climb up and bite your candy ass. That was a classic Dale Earnhardt. Dale also was a competitor away from the racetrack. If you were on a hunting trip with Dale and you shot a bigger elk, boy, it was going to be a long, long ride home. Or if you were headed to an airport after a race, you better hold on, because he was going to try to get there first. Dale was a family man. He loved Teresa, his children, his parents, and his brothers and sisters. They meant more to him than anything else. Dale also had a great appreciation for his fans. He knew they were hardworking people that spent their hard-earned money to come and watch him race. He wanted to give them their money's worth. If it was on the track, or if they bought merchandise with his name and likeness on it, he wanted to be the best. As a friend, Dale and I took many hunting trips together and had thousands of conversations. I look back now on them, very, very fond memories. Dale carved out his own piece of NASCAR history. He took the sport to another level. And in that process, he brought millions of fans along for the ride. I'd like to welcome to the stage the Earnhardt family, Dale's wife, Teresa, his sons, Kerry and Dale Jr., and his daughters, Kelly and Taylor. On this day, the 23rd of May, 2010, it is truly my honor and privilege to induct Dale Earnhardt into the Hall of Fame and to present this ring, this Hall of Fame ring, to Dale's family. Keep the box, I guess. They had a pedestal for it. Thank you.
When Dale Earnhardt had his hands on the steering wheel, he felt and saw things that you and I will never see. He could see the wind. Even moving at 200 miles an hour, he could see things more clearly than most of us could ever fathom. and thrill us all while he was doing it. Some call him legend, some call him hero, some simply call him dad or son, or to me, he was the love of my life. Dale Earnhardt was a man who personified the American dream. He worked hard. He earned everything he had, and he enjoyed it. This is an achievement of a lifetime. And to be able to celebrate it, for me, this is a moment of pride for Dale that I just can't put into words. So as I thought about the importance of today, I thought about the people, I thought about what people recognized and remembered about Dale's attributes. They called him the bravest, the toughest, the greatest, the most unselfish, the most generous, the most authentic, just to summarize a few. So there's so much that we could say about Dale. But the people who believed in him, cheered him to victory, held him up to greatness, have said it best. Former President George Bush quoted Dale, quote, an American legend. Senator Jesse Helms said Dale was, quote, an authentic American. He was a hero to millions. Secretary of State Colin Powell called him, quote, an American icon. Another quote, he was the greatest race car driver that ever lived. Bud Moore got straight to the point when he said, quote, there's Earnhardt, and then there's everybody else. But local school children put it best when they simply called him, quote, a real hero. Dale Earnhardt was definitely a hero to his family, and no one can say more about that than his children. Through them, his friends and fans, through this Hall of Fame, and through you, Dale Earnhardt, the legend, lives on. Carrie?
You know, Dad, as we grew up, he sacrificed a lot in life. There was a lot of times when Dad wasn't around, and I wondered what was important to him that he had to be gone all the time. Thing called autograph sessions, appearances. Fans meant the most to Dad, and Dad once taught me things about what fans were. He always taught me that no matter who it is in life, your bosses, the coworkers you work with, are the ones that come out to support you in whatever you do in life, are your fans, the ones that believe in you and believe in everything you do. You know, Dad was just tremendous with his fans. Learned a lot from Richard. Richard, awesome. I can't say enough about what the fans meant to Dad. Dad would always take the last minute and plus some to be associated with the fans, little ones up to older ones. A lot of times Dad would give back to fans for what they did for him. I remember times when he met children with handicaps. They end up having a van built for a wheelchair access and given to the family, to many other things. And just a proud moment to be here and be part of this induction of the Hall of Fame. And as a son, thank everyone and the fans out there that supported him. Kelly?
Thank you. My dad was a very giving person. Though he was a competitive driver and a businessman, that was very important to him, but it was also important to give back. And whether he did that to the local farmers on Highway 3, or racers just getting started like Jeff Gordon, or the men and women serving in our military in the public service, he was about doing business the right way and using his successes to give back to others. Giving back was important, but what was not important was telling people about it. And most of his acts of kindness went without anyone knowing. At other times, his help and his advice was a little more public. Right, Dale?
Yeah, I guess you could say there were a few times where I got some public advice from him. We were in Japan racing. I was racing for the first time against the Cup competitors and my father, and it was late in the race. I'd got some new tires, only had a few laps to make those work for me. And I got up underneath him off of turn 3 and 4, and I just needed about 2 inches to clear him. And I didn't have him cleared, and I slid across his nose up out to the wall, and he carried me all the way down the front straightaway on my front, with my back tires in there, all the way off into 1. And that was the day I met the Intimidator. So he let me go, but and I ran from him like I had an F on my report card. But with that same grit and competitive spirit, he carried that with his racing, but he carried it with everything else in life too. And when he wasn't in the race car, he was always outdoors. He was an avid outdoorsman, right, Taylor?
I think that it's a big, knowledge that me and Carrie and Kelly and Dale all grew up with different aspects of Dad. Dale, was always at the track with him, and I was, as a baby, was always at the track, but he always see me kissing the cheek and everything. But I got the more outdoorsy and the farm and the real man that he was behind the scenes and away from the racetrack. And I always grew up, not wanting to clean my room, and so I'd call Dad, and we'd go ride around the farm, and he taught me how to hunt, and aside from, just hunting, he taught me how to, take care of animals and how to preserve and conserve animals, which is something he was very passionate about, and he, he taught me that, and that's something I took from him, and I think that with us all having different experiences, we all have, we all look like, Dad, and everybody always tells us that we all look a little bit like Dad, and I think we all act like him too. We're determined and driven and stubborn as a fence post, but Dad gave all 4 of us something, and he gave all his fans something, and I think that's what makes him a true champion in everybody's eyes. So.
I'd like to give you one more quote from Dale. A racer wants to race and win. Imagine having the opportunity to do that for a living, and then to be successful, and then to be considered one of the greatest drivers that ever raced, especially by a group of peers, is one of the greatest honors a driver could ever receive. I've had a great career. If it ended tomorrow, I'd have no regrets. Dale Earnhardt. Thank you.
What a wonderful day of celebration, of stories, and a tremendous range of emotion as we have now inducted the first 5 inductees into NASCAR's Hall of Fame. We'll be right back to wrap things up from the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Welcome back to the 2010 NASCAR Hall of Fame inaugural induction ceremony. Once again, here's Mike Joy.
Like Henry Ford more than a century ago in winning his only auto race, NASCAR's pioneers covered themselves with dust and glory, raced their way onto the paved tracks and the early super speedways, paving the way for today's heroes to race their way into your living rooms. They were common men who accomplished uncommon deeds, and today we span all of the eras of NASCAR history in celebrating the first 5 inductees to the NASCAR Hall of Fame. For those of you watching on Speed, please stay tuned as we continue our coverage with more from the inductees and their families on this very special day. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon.
Here with us. Welcome to the Glory Road review of the NASCAR Hall of Fame 2010 inaugural induction celebration. Larry McReynolds and Chris Devoda inside the ballroom where Larry just a few moments ago, the inductees, their families, all up on stage. Fans right now taking shots of the 5 spires, recognizing those 5 individuals.
And you know, what an unbelievable experience, you know, just to be here. And you know, not that I needed confirmation, but Krista, what I picked up on these 5 individuals is they were all visionaries. They were hardworking men that were chasing their dream, and they did it with success. But the one thing that I picked up on that just gave me goosebumps, every one of these men were family men. They were true family men. They meant a lot to their family, and their family meant a lot to them. And I promise you, this honor would not mean anything to them without their family to enjoy it with them.
Absolutely. NASCAR is such a family sport built on a foundation of family. Steve Burns, your thoughts?
Well, Krista, listening to you and Larry, I agree with Larry. They were family men. The other thing, and Kyle Petty said this about his dad, Richard, is all of these people were fans first. And I think that's what drove them so much. In a day full of great stories and great memories, the line that hit home with me the most, when asked how he wanted to be remembered, Richard Petty says, "As long as I'm remembered, that's enough."
Well, Krista, the thing about it, you know, listen to everybody and what they've been saying all day long. It's so heartwarming because I grew up. These were my heroes. I mean, when I was a little boy, Richard Petty was the guy I pulled for. Then I got an opportunity to work for Junior Johnson. He was my boss. And in the very beginning of my dirt track racing careers, Dale Earnhardt became my friend. So it's just been a great walk down memory lane, at least for yours truly. And I can't believe that we have finally got this Hall of Fame so everybody else gets an opportunity to come share this history and some of these great memories right here in this day, just kind of like, I mean, puts a period on all of that, Krista.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. And no one more excited about the day than the 3rd generation of the France family, the leaders of our sport. Brian, Lisa, beautiful speeches. What has this day meant to you?
Well, it's an amazing, you know, we did a lot of celebration of our past. I think we also marked our future a little bit today, too, in terms of all the things that we're going to be able to celebrate down the road. And obviously, my sister and I and our whole family are very honored about my father and grandfather. And it's going to be the next class will be amazing, too. But what a wonderful day.
Lisa, there's no doubt in my mind that your dad and your granddad, they are looking down on this celebration today. I know I had my analysis early. What do you think they would think about what they've seen here today?
You're exactly right. It was an emotional day for us, and Brian and I both said when we looked out in the audience, it really took our breath away with everything that these 5 men accomplished. But I think they would be looking down and saying, geez, this is really neat, and for it all to come to this. But the great news is we've got something that will last for generations to come. So very, very special day.
I know what I said earlier. They're looking down saying, that's it. You got it. That's what I'm talking about right there.
You got it right, and I couldn't agree more. Congratulations. Thank you for everything. And yes, we look back on the past, but we spin forward to the future as well. So many wonderful stories told here today, moments and memories of our sport's best. When we come back, more here from the Glory Road Review as we continue to talk to inductees and their families here on Speed. Reynolds, Chris Devoda. We talked with Brian and Lisa France. They summed it up. I mean, this is just such a wonderful day and a look back and a look ahead.
Absolutely, you know, but I loved what Mike Kelton said, and I think he said it in the very beginning, is you can't foresee where you're going unless you know and you see where we've been. And I think that today put such a period on that statement right there.
All right, well, Jeff Hammond is standing by with someone who is very honored to be here and honor his dad. Jeff?
Yes, I am, Krista. Dale Earnhardt Jr. And you're making fun of me because I'm nervous here. I mean, how was it today? You told some great stories right there about your father.
Well, I just wanted to get that one in. I thought it was the first piece of advice I ever got from him, and he didn't even have to speak a word. But it was fun. The induction was well done, and it was such great stories. And I was just proud to be able to be here to witness it and see the guys that have done so much for this sport get up here and talk a little bit, you know, and get to know a little bit more about them.
Well, you know, the thing I kind of focused in on, especially with the Earnhardt family, was that how the fans were so important to your father. And now with this great hall and him being here, I mean, everybody throughout the world come here and understand about his legacy and his legend even better than before.
Yeah, it's awesome that NASCAR has really got behind this and give us a central location for our Hall of Fame, our Cooperstown, if you will. And this will definitely be nationally recognized as the central hub for it for years and years as we start to induct more and more names into it. And these guys, this will give these guys a place for them to live on forever and be recognized for what they contributed to the sport for so many years.
Well, Dale Jr., your father definitely contributed a whole lot, and he will always be remembered as the Intimidator and one of our leaders in our sport. Thank you, and congratulations to you and your family.
We're very happy, very proud.
Steve, I think you caught up with one of our inductees, the King.
Yes, sir, Jeff, with Richard Petty. And Richard, so many great stories, so many great memories today. Did you have a favorite moment? And you had connections with so many of the inductees, all of them.
Well, yeah, I'm associated with all of them. At some time or another, either drove against them, worked against them, or worked for them, or worked with them. And, you know, that was one thing about, I thought Junior Johnson was good going in because he drove for Big Bill, and he was car owner for Little Bill. So he transcended the sport, you know, starting in 52, 53, you know, same. I wasn't working at that particular time. I was working on my car in 1950, 49. So I was there. I worked with Big Bill and Little Bill too. So, you know, we went through the whole situation, and you know, just sort of brings back a bunch of memories and stuff that, you know, we was there when this stuff started, man. I mean, so we're, I think me and Junior both feel like we're history, okay? You know, and we're on the third floor of this big, nice place, and just makes you feel good that you're just part of it.
Richard, how important, how and special to you? Larry McReynolds talked about how you guys are all family men. To have your wife Linda here, your kids, your grandkids, what did that mean to you?
Well, you know, that's what made it work, okay? You know, Richard Petty could have come along and he could have done his own deal and stuff, but he needed some kind of stability because, you know, race car drivers sometimes are not too stable, you know. So you needed something to kind of keep your feet on the ground. And you know, when Linda came along, and then I had all the kids and the grandkids, you had a ground, okay? You had always had a place to go, and those people, they loved you whether you won, lost, or drove. It didn't make any difference, you know. And so they just give you that confidence that you could just, hey man, you can do it. Yeah, you didn't do too good this week, but you can go do it. So, you know, but you look at the France family, you look at the Pearson family, the Allison family, the Baker family, you know, Yarborough family, you know, Ned Jarrett and all his crowd. So it was just always been a family affair as far as NASCAR is concerned.
Richard, thanks a lot, and congratulations once again on your honor.
Thank you, guys.
Krista, Larry?
All right, thanks, Steve. And you know, everyone in this class obviously well known, the King, iconic.
Oh, and no question. And even though I don't think you would find anyone to say anything bad about any of these five inductees, I challenge you that you'd ever find anybody, a fan, a competitor, anybody he's had contact with, to ever say anything bad about the King, Richard Petty.
All right, we have a lot more coming up, but yeah, when you wear a hat and look that cool in the glasses, it doesn't matter what you do, even when you're giving a speech here at the Hall of Fame. Here's just a little taste of Richard's induction speech.
And the fans then is what it's all about, guys. We wouldn't be here if it hadn't been the fans. There wouldn't be a Richard Petty. There wouldn't be a NASCAR. But the press was telling the fans about NASCAR. The fans came, and the fans developed a real love for it. So, you know, I appreciate being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I appreciate the guys that voted for me, and you know, look forward to what's coming down the road. And I guess I'm gonna do like Gomer Pyle. I'm just gonna say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Told so many amazing moments and several that tugged at our heartstrings, especially when family was involved. Jeff?
That's right, Krista, here with Junior Johnson and his entire family, Lisa, Meredith, Robert. Junior, the day is kind of coming to an end. Did it turn out the way you thought it would be?
Yes, it did, and it was more than I thought it would be. It's just mind-boggling how this thing has come about and what they had to, all the players in it had to say and thank people for what they've done for the sport. And you know, I'm just dumbfounded that this thing is here like it is now.
A minute ago, I asked you where your ring was, and I understand now your son Robert, who did an outstanding job inducting you in the Hall of Fame, he's already got your ring.
Well, he deserves it. I don't.
Well, Junior, once again, congratulations. It was so well deserved, and I'm glad you're having such a great time. You're the man. That's all I got to say, and I'm just once again honored to have worked for you.
Thank you.
Krista?
All right, thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, we loved hearing the stories. I thought, you know, young Taylor Earnhardt did an amazing job. Darrell Waltrip's speech. Rick Hendrick, I think he hit it out of the park today.
Oh, the presenters, they absolutely, the stories is what told the tale about these inductees. You know, you can lay the numbers up there. You can open books and you can find the numbers, but the stories, that's what makes this whole day special. And you know, Krista, this is a special day for our sport, our special day for the NASCAR fan, old and young, and obviously a very special day for the inductees. But you know what? We're racers. We want to remember the history, but just think about it. In less than 5 months, we'll be talking about the second class of inductees that will be inducted next year on October the 13th, 2010. That class of 5 will be announced.
That's right. This is just the first of many classes to come. A lot of the gentlemen we saw here today will be inducted in the near future. This is such a fun event to cover. You know, the gentlemen, the 5 that we honored today, they created the sport. They molded its changes. They followed a blueprint built on a foundation of success and a hard-charging attitude. Qualities that have now been passed on to the next generation of drivers. They set the standard. We raised the bar today. They will now forever be enshrined in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Welcome back to Charlotte, North Carolina, the home of the brand new NASCAR Plaza and NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Thank you, guys.
It is a great honor and my great pleasure to welcome you to
Our 5 inaugural inductees remind us today why we're fans.
I would like to offer as a donation this ring back to the hall for display.
I guess I'm going to do like Gomer Pyle. I'm just going to say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I have to tell you, this is a huge honor today for me, Brian, and our entire France family. We are so humbled to be here.
I would just like to finish by saying that although my father may be going into the NASCAR Hall of Fame today, he's always been a Hall of Fame dad in my heart.
Some call him legend, some call him hero, some simply call him dad, or son, or to me, he was a